Got the kids today, Ange?
No, not today. Tuesday, Thursday. Tuesday, my weekend this weekend.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the 333rd edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I'm your host, Steve Wellings, and joining me on the call, we have Andy Patterson, Gabe Lewis, Ozzie Smith, and delighted to welcome some special guests in the form of Richie Garner, and he has a friend with him as well, who we'll be introducing to you very shortly and talking about his career. It is the one and only Angelo Dragone. Welcome, Richie. Good to have you on. Long time no speak. How are you keeping? All good, Richie?
He's on mute, mate.
You seem to be just muted at the moment, Richie. If you're able to turn that off, we'll be able to hear you, hopefully. Maybe heal you as well, who knows? All is possible on Sunday night on the Nuthouse. Any joy there? Well, Richie is getting himself off mute soon, hopefully. Andy, we'll move to you first of all. Before we get on to the Dillian White chat, which will be coming up a little bit later on, let's go over to Texas, shall we? I trust you've seen this fight. Jose Carlos Ramirez against Maurice Hooker. Great fight, real shootout. I obviously backed Ramirez to lose last week.
That's Richie on, mate.
Richie's on now. I cut my spiel short. Richie, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, when I first got introduced to you guys and you were good enough to have me on, obviously, I had a stable then, which was first being established. A lot of those guys now are coming to fruition, coming towards their first area titles. We've got Angelo Dragone with me today. Angelo, along with Jake Anthony, probably be fighting for a Welsh title on Chris Sanagar's show on the 13th of September in Swansea. Angelo's 5-0. Ozzie will be familiar with him because he did some work with Kieran Gibbons commentating on the Newport show when Angelo had his first six-rounder, his step-up fight against Rhys Saunders, who I used to train. But pleasure to be invited onto the show, guys. And, obviously Angelo can give you some information about where he's at and what's going on, what's going to happen next.
Certainly, Angelo. Welcome to you. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, guys. Thank you for having me on the show. Hope you're all well. Yeah, like Richie said, my career is moving on fast now. Currently 5-0 in terms of agreed, we're going to be fighting for the Welsh title September the 13th in Swansea. So it's all happening down in West Wales, yeah.
So is that fight going to be against a guy called Christian Twos, apparently, for the Welsh area lightweight title? What's Christian all about? Tell us a bit more information on him.
Yes, actually for the super featherweight, so we're dropping down to super featherweight. Yeah, Christian Twos is the opponent. Yeah, he's quite a slick fighter, like a back foot fighter. He's a southpaw. Yeah, so he's a bit of a runner, to be honest. So I'm looking forward to hunting him down on fight night.
5-0, obviously. This is a bit of a step up for you. 29 years of age, Angelo, the Italian stallion. What about your amateur career or any experience? You are a bit of a novice pro, getting towards 30 as well. What's the plan?
Yeah, the plan is I don't make any massive goals. I just take one fight at a time, to be honest. Richie's doing a great job guiding my career so far. A Welsh title hopefully next now, and hopefully pushing on to British title. I think I'm good enough for that kind of level. So just taking one fight at a time, to be honest.
You've got good skills, a bit of a fan-friendly style as well, and apparently you sell quite a few tickets, which is all important on the small hall scene.
Yeah, it's massive, and I'd like to thank everyone who comes out to support me in the Carmarthen and Llanelli areas. Got good support on with sponsors as well, which is massive for professional boxing. Yeah, so I'm very fortunate them. So I'd like to thank everyone who supports me and follows me, really.
Yeah, Andy's picked up on something I was going to ask you, actually. Obviously, the Italian stallion, name like Angelo. We're looking at the guys like Enzo Macronelli, Joe Calzaghe. Those are the kind of guys you would have sort of looked up to?
Yeah, 100%. I used to love watching Joe Calzaghe when I was younger. Obviously, Enzo. We go up to Enzo's gym sparring sometimes, and Richie's good pals with him. So, yeah, if I could have if I could do half of the stuff they've done, I'd be very happy, man. So Richie will be too.
My bank balance might be a bit happier.
Obviously, you're being trained and managed by Richie. What kind of sparring does he have you doing, and what kind of day-to-day, preparation and gym work do you do, Angelo?
Yeah, I take my training very seriously. I got a strength and conditioning coach on board as well. Richie trains me up in Swansea at Forest Park Gym, Jack to King Boxing Club. We obviously the next fight now is going to be 10 rounds, so we're going to be going to London over the next week sparring. Just again more high quality sparring and obviously southpaw sparring as well. So yeah, looking forward to testing myself with.
It's an interesting question that you asked, because obviously Angelo is somebody, and you've touched on it already. He's come into the game a little bit late, if you like. He's talked extensively to me before he turned pro about his amateur experience, and he also white collar boxing and licensed boxing. He did quite well. He had a very positive record. He only lost a handful, as you said. He's got a very crowd pleasing style. Goes forward. This fight with Twos, not to overplay it, but this is very much a Rocky and Apollo style fight. The guy coming forward, rolling, catching shots and trying to pin Twos into the corner and punish him. And then you've got, Twos, who Angelo has said is very slick, likes to move, works off the jab. He's a southpaw and he doesn't like to engage. So it's a massive clash of styles. They only live about 10, 15 miles apart. So there's a lot of local rivalry. There's going to be a lot of tickets sold. But obviously, to prepare Angelo for this, we've been working. Everything I've done with him on the pads has been out of the southpaw stance, getting him used to that. He's going to be sparring next week. We start sparring next week with David White Jr. We're going to be building it up as well. Like Angelo said, I've been on the phone to Eddie Muscat today and Neil Bowers and what have you in relation to going out to Peacock. We got some time arranged at the Peacock gym, sparring some top quality boys there, and obviously we're gonna get in as much as we can. There's also been talk. You guys will be familiar, I'm sure, with Kieran Gething, who's the Welsh area champion, super lightweight, and Angelo's done a little bit of sparring with him. We're going to go down to Gary Lockett's gym. We're going to do some work with a fantastic young prospect that I'm sure you've heard about, Rhys Edwards. And we're going to get in as much as we can. Preparation is a key to this fight. And one thing I will say about Angelo is he's the type of fighter I never have to drag in the gym. He's there before me and he leaves after me. And, the only problem I have is keeping him on a leash.
Yeah, that sometimes can be the problem with overtraining and stuff. Angelo, just final one to you. Richie mentioned about the white collar and the unlicensed there. Tell us a little bit more about that. Was it a Bieber? What was it like doing the unlicensed? Because we hear a lot of negative things about it.
Yeah, to be honest, after the amateur scene, I had about 26, 27 amateurs, I think it was. Didn't have a pretty record, but I won more than I lost. So I went into did a bit of a license the organisation called IBA from London. But to be honest, I thought there was a good platform. Fighting in the likes of York Hall, City Pavilion, so some good venues and some big crowds. There's a bit of a professional feel to it. I know a lot of unlicensed organisations, especially around the Wales, are a bit amateurish and a bit all over the shop really. But I thought there was a pretty good standard really. After I fought for like a IBA British title then, and unfortunately lost by 1 point. I got robbed in it, but seen that fight then, and we had a chat, and I decided to turn professional then, and I haven't put a foot wrong so far, so I'm enjoying the journey.
Yeah, it's obviously going pretty well for you at the moment. Best of luck against Christian Twos. Before we ask Richie a final couple of questions, any social media presence or anything you want to make the listeners aware of?
Yeah, so if anybody's interested in tickets or sponsorship or just following my career, you can add me on Facebook, Angelo Dragone, or on Instagram, Dragone Angelo Boxing, and I'm also on Twitter as well if you're going to follow me as well.
Brilliant. Thank you for your time, Angelo. We do appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Richie, final couple to you as well then before we go on. We mentioned at the top of the show the Dillian White situation. We will be discussing that later on in the show, but I'm interested to get your 2 pence worth from what you've seen. Where do you see the situation at the moment?
Do you know what? Ozzy will know I'm massively anti-drug, and I think everybody involved in boxing, except those who abuse the system, they are massively anti-drug. But what I will say is this. There's always scope for mistakes to be made. And, you hear horror stories about people taking supplements that they believe to be genuine supplements, and some things are imported from America or Mexico or whatever, and they're not mixed properly, and there's certain things put into the batches, and something which essentially has perhaps a label which it might not have. You have some unscrupulous people out there selling some products which they say that they're approved, they say that they're above board, and perhaps they're not. Now, I'm certainly not saying that's the case with Dillian, and if he's chosen to cheat, and not just cheat for the first time, but bear in mind this is the second time he's proven positive, isn't it? Then obviously it's detrimental. It was a massive shock to me that it came out that he had been found to have tested positive before the fight, and there's certainly a tremendous amount of information that's come out now in relation to who knew about the test, what they did about it. I mean, my massive concern is the British Boxing Board of Control, who I've always been a massive advocate of. I've been involved in boxing and mixed martial arts at pretty much all levels. And the British Boxing Board of Control, I genuinely feel like they truly have the best interests of the fighters at heart. However, what I will say is this: reports are coming out that they knew about it before Dillian got into the ring. That fight was still approved. Everything still went forward, and that's very concerning, and people are going to have questions to answer. It'd be very interesting to see how this all pans out. What is B sample produces? I don't think we've got any results in relation to that yet, have we?
No.
So yeah, be an interesting scenario as it plays out. What is also interesting is, I mean, you guys have been involved on Twitter and everybody that follows you and stuff. And obviously, I keep a close eye on Twitter and everybody that's around you. And a lot of the stuff that's come out in relation to things that Eddie has said in the background of previous tests, people should be banned for life. And, these people, they should go to jail, manslaughter, if somebody gets hurt, blah, blah, blah. Well, the boot's on the other foot now, isn't it? And it surprises me that there hasn't been really an official statement with any gravitas, which has helped the public to understand the situation completely.
Yeah, it does seem to be not so much smoke and mirrors, but quite vague and stating the obvious and all that type of stuff. At the moment, it's obviously high-profile cases that are getting caught. Go ahead, sir.
The way I see it is Matchroom have just battened down the hatches and they're waiting for the storm to pass. Because if they had anything to say, they would have said it by now.
If you were obviously involved, what type of punishments do you think should be dished out to people who are caught and it's obviously nailed on that they've cheated?
Do you know what? Genuinely, I fought at various levels, and I had some really tough fights when I genuinely felt like I was fighting for my life. That sounds overly dramatic, but I never fought at top level. I fought at national level in boxing, and I'd never fought at the top level. I mean, I was around at a time when Joe had just turned pro. And then the generation behind me was Enzo Macronelli just coming into the game, and obviously he turned pro. And I was in, should we say, the company of some great fighters. I mean, bear in mind, when I was fighting in Wales, you had the Prices, and it wasn't just Bradley that turned pro and did well. His brothers were national champions. Delroy and the rest of them. There was about four of them. They all did really, really well. You had obviously Joe, as I said, who just turned over. You had Enzo. You had Gary Lockett. You had Gavin Rees. All these guys were in my era. And the Welsh boxing at the time, went through a little bit of a golden era during the amateurs. And if the funding was in place now, that is in place for the amateurs, if the funding was in place then as they had in place for the amateurs now, Welsh boxing would have just been absolutely huge because the talent pool was just massive. It was fantastic. It was a golden era. But Welsh boxing was amazing. There were a lot of people involved. There were a lot of fights to be had, and I had a lot of tough fights. Now, if I had come out of one of those fights, which and I hadn't come out unscathed, and we're talking 3-round fights, 5-round fights in the championships, and if I had been hurt, if I'd been seriously hurt, I'd have wanted the other guy, if he had been found to be on performance enhancing drugs, would I have wanted him to face criminal charges? You're damn right I would. That guy has got an edge. You don't take a knife to a fist fight and stab somebody and expect to come away without being charged. If you have with somebody and you come off second best, that's one thing. If you have a straightener with somebody and they come with a knife, you expect them to suffer the repercussions. you know, I mean, it's the same adage for me. I mean, you know, they're going in with an unfair advantage. To me, it's an unlawful advantage, and something needs to be done about that. You know, and just a 6-month ban, these 6 months ban that they're throwing around, and you know, you're talking about VADA and UK anti-doping and what have you, and who they report to, and whether these results are leaked and what have you. And we have got to, as a community, look very closely at what's happening with PEDs in boxing. And it is really, really about time we started taking this seriously before somebody does end up seriously hurt. And, you know, we need to look at that. We need to do something about it, because at the moment, the landscape is bleak, and it's just terrible for boxing. Absolutely atrocious.
Yeah, that leads on perfectly to my final question, actually. Without going into specifics, obviously, you're a man, you know, with his ear to the ground and all that. How big a problem is this across the boxing community?
I've got to be honest with you. I've got a lot of prospects. They take supplements. They're given advice from me in relation to the supplements that they take. They're given advice from the British Boxing Board of Control when they turn over and if they're before them for any disciplinaries. I don't have top level fighters. I haven't got a Dillian White. I haven't got an Anthony Joshua, because you know what? If I did, I wouldn't be living where I'm living. I'd be in a mansion somewhere. You know, if I did have those top level fighters, you know, I'd be able to answer that question a bit more completely, because it's just not on. It's not a level I'm familiar with, so I can't really answer that question honestly. But I think it is a massive problem at top level. I think that when fighters are striving to achieve that top level, the rewards in relation to what they can earn sometimes might make it worth doing it. And I think it was Dominic Negus. He released a book a long time ago. It was called Out of the Shadows or something like that, and he talked openly about it. And he said, you know, that he felt that at top level, something like 80% of the boxers were cheating. They were using drugs. They were using designer drugs that could beat the system. You know, we're not talking about low level. We're not talking about area level fighters. You know, we're talking about top level fighters. Dominic Negus said that 20 years ago. Now, you know, the information and the chemistry of the whole thing, you know, it moves so much faster for the people who make these drugs, because, you know, it's an industry. It's an industry you can make a lot of money from. You know, he talked about people spending, you know, at top level, and I think he even referred to Audley Harrison, you know, spending thousands and thousands, you know, on performance enhancing drugs. Now, I'm not pointing the finger there. I'm telling you what I can remember about what Dominic Negus wrote in his book. And, you know, he said, I could not perform at the top level. I felt I was tough enough. I felt I had the skills, but I could not perform at top level because I couldn't afford the performance enhancing drugs that would allow me to recover the way that the top level athletes that can afford these drugs can. I can't afford these drugs that will enable me to train at the intensity that these people who take performance enhancing drugs can. And to be honest with you, when you look at the risk and the reward and the short bans that are being thrown around at the moment, if you get to that level and you're only one step away, for some of these people who are less scrupulous, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? Because you can be set for life. You can be set for life if you are right, and if you have got that edge, and if you win a fight that perhaps you're not perhaps meant to win because you've got an edge, you know, your next fight is worth hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions.
A bleak picture indeed, everybody. We shall end it there. Thank you to Angelo for coming on, and also thank you to you, Richie. Good to hear from you again. Don't be a stranger. We'll have you on again very soon.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Take care.
Cheers, lads. All the best now. There we go then. That's got the Dillian White chat started. We'll go back to that very shortly. I know there's a couple of other guys looking to come on as well. Richie Garner telling it how it is. Andy, just before Richie joined us, and Angelo as well, who's getting a big fight coming up, I was talking to you about Maurice Hooker against Mr. Ramirez. Interesting fight. Very exciting fight, I thought, actually. I thought that Ramirez showed a very calm temperament. He dealt under the desperate pressure of Hooker's swings, which were becoming wilder as they went on. He worked in a nice little uppercut. Didn't look hurt. Didn't look overawed. I bet Gabe wishes he was there, Andy.
I can't mind what Gabe. What did Gabe say again?
Oh, you know Gabe though. In the old Texas heat, he could have gone across on the bus to that.
He's a tight ass, isn't he? I heard Gabe was actually walking around at the perimeter looking for black men with his gun.
Oh, you bastard!
Sorry, just lighting the mood there a wee bit. It was a good fight. Hooker, I thought he was pretty honest. I suppose after the fight, it was the ending was pretty emphatic. Ramirez obviously he was working the body pretty well as well. Left hooks to the body, and he opened up for the finish with the left hook, and then obviously the right hand and stuff. Good performance for Ramirez, which I will say is this is probably one of the kind of better fights that I've seen him fight recently. And so I know I don't know what his situation is going to be now, obviously with the 2 belts and stuff. Obviously he's got Taylor Pro Grade winner and that, but that could take months, I suppose. So it might be the WBO mandatory and that. But he's done well for himself. He's very highly thought of in that as well. Obviously his local community and that, who obviously all got out behind him and stuff. And another wee L for Matchroom there last night as well. Sorry guys. Evening Eddie, how you doing, pal? So top rank, getting another win over Matchroom and the Zone there last night, and it could be another one when Lomachenko comes over and fights Campbell shortly. So all in all, it was a good evening's work actually for Ramirez. As I say as well, I don't think I know you're big on him, Steve, to be honest with you, but I looked at him last night, and to be honest, if I look at it, I think Prograis and Taylor both have their way with him actually.
Gabe, I think Andy's right. I think they both do have their way with him, but I was impressed with Ramirez, especially after shitting on him for so long. He won the tactical battle. He immediately raced out to the blocks. He pinned Hooker back. He set the pace. He set the tempo, and Hooker didn't really adapt. I thought he spent too much time lying on the ropes, negating his height and reach advantages, and it was Ramirez's left hook to the head, Gabe, and the body that were both working a treat. I was wrong about him, as usual. Great performance. I got it wrong.
I mean, he's just one of those guys. I picked against him as well. That I feel like when you see his fights, you don't ever necessarily see something that is incredibly standout in terms of, I think he can use this tactic to win the fight, or this skill, or this ability that he has. And last night, I mean, I don't think he had any advantages. Maybe he was stronger, but I mean, I felt like Maurice Hooker is typically a more accurate puncher, usually more of a clean puncher. I like what he does in terms of his punch selection, and Ramirez is, to me, has always seemed a little bit more of an output, crowding type fighter. But you have to give Robert Garcia a lot of credit, because when he gets a guy like that uses pressure and uses subtle boxing ability along with a tenacious, more prominent tenacious style, he does well. Think about a guy like Marcos Maidana, who had, some underlying boxing skills, some fundamental things that he could do. And whenever he put those into a little bit more prominence, it allowed his crowding and his aggressive style to be more prominent and to help him win fights. And I think that's what you keep seeing with Ramirez is a guy that you look at and you're not just supremely impressed by what he's bringing to the table. And so when you see him fight, you next time think, oh, well, he can't beat this guy. He's not going to be able to do it this time. And he just found another way. I mean, I thought it was a really fun fight, actually. I thought Maurice Hooker did use some poor strategy in there by going to the ropes, just like you said. I felt like he had moments when he was in the middle of the ring, but I don't think he had enough pop to keep Ramirez off of him for the most part. I think that was the biggest thing, was if he would have had a little bit more mustard on some of his punches, he could have kept him back a little bit better and really, gone for it. But I think he was hitting Ramirez quite a bit, and he did sting him a couple of times. There were some times where you could tell that Ramirez did not like what he was getting. But overall, I mean, that was probably my favorite fight of the evening. And I thought it was a tremendous one. I wouldn't mind, after Ramirez goes through whatever's coming up next, if he makes it out of all those, to see a rematch with Hooker, because I think that Hooker did a tremendous job while it lasted. I just think that his plan going in didn't really work as well as he hoped it would. And Ramirez wasn't persuaded to stay on the outside and try to box outside. So I think that's something that Hooker can work on in the future. I still really like the kid. Impressed by Ramirez, though, with his just go get him attitude and coming out, like you said, setting the pace and going for it. I think a good fight, my favorite fight for him would be Regis Prograis. You know, I like Prograis, but I'm not super sold on him yet. And that may just be me. I don't know how a lot of other people feel. I know a lot of other people quite like him. But
Do you mean Prograis against Ramirez, Gabe?
yes. Yes. I don't feel like a lot of I just don't feel like Prograis is what he's being sold as quite yet. Not
Well,
to
we'll
say
see against Josh Taylor, won't we?
what's that?
We'll see against Josh Taylor. I think if anything's going to tell us more against Prograis, it'll be fighting a fighter of the quality and the caliber of Josh Taylor in the WBSS final.
I think that'll be the big telling fight. If he comes through that relatively unscathed, then I'm wrong, and that's certainly a possibility now. I just like I'm saying, I feel like he's not quite what he's sold to be, and I think a fight with Ramirez and either one of those guys would be a good fight. And then you've got really a four man little tournament there that you can swing any number of ways and I think come up with exciting fights. I don't think anything out of that setup would not be something that was fun to watch, no matter how you set them up, no matter who wins what fights and anything like that. So, that was a pretty fun fight. And then I guess, sorry, I'll let you carry on now.
No, it's fine, Gabe. I was just ready to have an interesting conversation with you. Enjoy hearing from you as always.
I was about to go into the Tevin Farmer fight if y'all were ready for that one.
Go ahead, Gabe. I will let you do that.
I thought it was fun. I saw some people online saying it was a stink out, but I really enjoyed it. The most active champion in boxing is Farmer, and I feel like he always puts on a fun show despite his limitations. I mean, he's not like a huge power puncher, and he's not going to be a guy that's going to score a bunch of tremendous knockouts, but he has just really good all-around skills, and he has a lot of good qualities in terms of the cleanliness of his boxing style, which not to say that he lands every punch perfectly or anything along those lines, but aesthetically, I feel like whenever you watch him fight, you can see a high caliber fighter, and you can see the things that he does. I mean, even the smallest movements that he's making are conceived in a way that is very intentional. And I think he's really a complete package in terms of overall boxing ability. I think he lacks, the big power punch is it. I think that's the only thing that I look at and see that, man, if I could change one thing about this fighter, it would be, getting him some huge punching power, and that would really seal the deal. But I think if he were to have that, I don't think he would fight the same. And I think that's what you see with a lot of fighters is they are who they are because of what they have and what they don't have, consequently. And so you don't see him going out in a blaze of glory every time he steps into the ring, and going to toe-to-toe battles. And it's very, I think, much a part of the fact that he's not a huge power puncher, but the footwork, the punch selection, the angles, the movement, the defense, everything all combined together, I feel like is a really fun fighter to watch.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, Gabe. He's a highly skilled fighter. Max Stoke doesn't necessarily agree with you, though, Gabe. On Twitter, he says Farmer and Demetrius Andrade, I like watching paint dry. Combined with Vargas, DAZN have got the dead wood.
No, I don't think he's anything like Andrade. I really don't. I don't like Andrade. I don't see the same level of ability with him. He's a bore to me, I think, and that I think most people would agree with that. I think there's a few Andrade fans out there, but he's just ugly to watch. I mean, his fights are not pleasing in any way to me. He doesn't exhibit the same, level of operation that I think Tevin Farmer does. And I can see. I mean, I can see why some people would not be a fan of Tevin Farmer. You've always got that crew out there that just, they're just not fans of that kind of fighting. And that's okay. I feel like that's all right. Even once in a while, I'll get into a zone where I want to watch, somebody just fucking throw down and go to battle. But at the same time, I think that, a lot of boxing fans will appreciate what they see with Tevin Farmer and his general ability and skill and level of expertise that he employs his tactics with.
Yeah, Max Stoke was also asking when Tevin Farmer will cash out. I'm assuming at some point they'll put him in against Jervonta Davis, whose fight with Ricardo Nunez we'll be talking about very shortly. Just sticking to this Texas card, Aussie, back to Maurice Hooker. Hooker's success has always come, especially in the Terry Flanagan fight, from creating space and letting those long levers, those long arms work their magic. But he wasn't able to do that. He wasn't able to keep Ramirez off him. And when the end came, Aussie, sure you saw it as well as I did, it was brutal and it was rapid. Talk about a finisher. Ramirez, he hurt him. And before there was even time to smell blood, he was over Hooker like a bird of prey. Superb finishing instincts from Ramirez.
Tremendous. And there was no recovering from it. I thought it was a good stoppage. I think we've seen fighters been given opportunities before to carry on from that. And what was good to hear is that Maurice Hooker came out after it and said, basically, the referee was spot on. 2 fighters have died this week. And I didn't want to be a third being able to, being given the opportunity to carry on when I was badly hurt.
I thought Hooker was superb afterwards, Ozzy.
Yeah. It's what you want to hear. All too often we hear about fighters criticising referees, but for Hooker to come out and praise him, I thought was really respectable, and he was gracious in defeat. I agree with what Gabe said. I thought Hooker landed some pretty decent shots. That probably would have got some fighters out of there. To be honest, I thought Ramirez displayed a decent chin, but I thought he was just too tough and rugged for him, for Hooker. And like you said, he didn't use his strengths, which are those long levers, and has seen him, produce the goods previously. And I thought Ramirez outfought him more than anything. It was a very impressive display. Not sure what the plan is next. I think in an ideal world, they'd love to go into a huge unification, but I don't see that happening with the Taylor fight next. So they're probably probably time to cash in on the WBO mandatory in that sense, and just want to try and get it out of the way. And it's a fighter that's all well known to us, and it'll be Jack Catterall from the UK. I don't think the WBO have named it yet, but he's been sat in that one spot for a while, and I think when it comes around to doing that, he'll be the one who's put forward for it. And it's a fight that they're going to take, obviously.
Yep, Aussie isn't the only one pushing that. MB in the chat, they've got the Jack Catterall mandatory, so he's agreeing with you there. Shout out to everybody in the chat, evening Eddie, evening to everybody else as well who's listening in. Good to hear that you're all with us. Who else is in the chat here? Max Stoke, as always. Dave Tricks, a few of the regular faces. Matthew Russell, Take Ames as well. Go over and follow him on YouTube, doing some great work. As he is, hit the like button as well, people. 145 watching at the moment. We're going to take over the world. Welcome to our next guest, friend of the pod, needs no introduction, Danny Young. How are you, Danny?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Absolutely fabulous. Before we move on to exactly what you want to talk about, see anything from the weekend of interest? Maybe Ramirez, maybe Jervonta Davis, maybe nothing at all?
Yeah, I did, mate. Yeah, Ramirez, Hooker, yeah, decent. And I was really surprised by Ramirez. Actually, he came out, just stepped on the gas from the off, really, and I think that really shook Hooker. I don't think he was expecting that, and his stamina was there, and I just kind of blown away a little bit that was his tactics, and he went with it and put him to the sword and absolutely destroyed him. So yeah, really pleased with that. And I also saw a bit of I saw the Davis fight, and if I'm going to be honest with you, Davis now needs to stop fighting these nobodies and actually fight someone competitive. Yes. I won't take any more of these fucking walkover fights, 2-3 rounders that he keeps getting, and obviously everyone just wants to see him in good nick fighting against the best in the division. Well said,
Danny. Yes, it was a mandatory, but we want to see him fighting higher level of opposition than this. We want to see him constantly fit. Don't want to see him out getting fat again and on the shelf for another 6 to 8 months. We want to see him back out again. It could benefit, Danny. I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, from a Tevin Farmer sort of regime, couldn't he? Fighting every 4 months or so.
Yes and no, because I could see that as being a 3-round walkover as well. Personally, I don't know how everyone else sees it, but Farmer, he's just not a boxer that excites me. It bores me sometimes. He just kind of tippy taps away. goes the 12 rounds, gets his decision, and then moves on to the next one. So, look, if they put that on, I'm not against it. I'll watch it, but I can see that again as a Davis walkthrough. But then hopefully that might be the stepping stone to something more competitive. Hopefully.
Yeah, or even if he's not fighting Farmer, or if he does fighting on a sort of Farmer time schedule every 3 or 4 months or so, and keeping himself active in the gym, in the ring, rather than arsing about.
Well, that's it. Yeah, like fucking going like 12 months, gaining about 12 chins, and then coming back like, you know, getting himself fit, fighting fit in a space of about 8 weeks is just doing him no favors. He needs to be like constant, and he needs to be fighting against decent opposition.
Well said, Danny. So what have you come on to talk about? The floor is yours.
Well, yeah, I just want to kind of chime in on the whole fucking Dillian White and all this nonsense, because I'm just getting fucking sick to death of it now. Like, look, I box a bit. I've not fought anyone yet, but I've been thinking about it. But it just, someone needs to be, I'm not saying Dillian White needs to be the example, but someone needs to be fucking properly punished for this shit, because it, you know, you think of all the fucking idiots that paid fucking money to watch that shit, not knowing that the guy, one of the boxers that were fighting on the main event, was essentially a drugs cheat. And then obviously more serious than that is the fact that Rivas ended up stepping into the ring with someone who had been taking performance enhancing drugs. It's just fucking not on. And I just want to kind of chime in with you guys and sort of like, you know, just get the conversation going a little bit, because it really pisses me off. And again, I'll say it again. It's not that I want Dillian White to be the first person that gets an absolute pounding off of whoever it is, but it's gone on too long now, and someone needs to be made an example of and said, and kind of, so they say, right, anyone does this again, then you're out, because it's all becoming it's becoming a bit of a farce.
Yeah, whenever we were talking about this on Facebook earlier, I put the question out to the guys. They were talking about Tyson Fury as well. If anybody wants to come on tonight and talk about Tyson Fury, by the way, because we often get, oh, you don't talk about Fury. Now is your chance. If you're listening on the chat, if you're listening on Twitter, listening on Facebook, and you want to come on and finally talk about Tyson Fury, you are more than welcome. Sorry, I've digressed there, Danny. On Facebook, Darren Hamilton said that the problem is the bans aren't long enough. They're too lenient, because you're banning a guy for 6 months. Most top-level guys don't even fight in the space of 6 months anyway. So you're basically saying the same as him, Danny. We need to see like a 4-year or a 5-year type of extension here.
Yeah, 4 years after this stuff gets put through the ringer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look, let's put it this way: someone like, well, it should be almost a ban to say, right, this is going to be 4 or 6 years, and your career essentially is over because you fucking cheated, and that's the end of that. Do you know what I mean? I can't. None of this 6 months. I mean, what is 6 months? Like you say, look, we just said that Davis only fights every 12 months. So if he got caught doing PEDs, it wouldn't matter to him, because that's, you know, he could get banned twice for all he cares. He don't care. He's out eating fucking Subways and getting 6 chins, so he don't give a shit. But it riles me that like someone, like, you know, they get paid enough money as it is to go and fucking shitty pay-per-view fights that nobody wants to see on pay-per-view, and then they get banned for they get done for drugs, and we're the fucking fools that let them get away with it. You know, 6 months, I'll come back and earn another 6 million for a fight no one wants to see. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, Ross Phillips in the chat says the problem is UKAD and the British Boxing Board of Control are not publicly clear with their bans and updates. He also says they cover their own backs first. Were you on board with me, Danny, when I was giving off the other week, whenever BT Sports were throwing in Jarrell Miller's name as a potential opponent for Tyson Fury without a care in the world? Is that part of the problem?
Yeah, 100%. I don't want to see Jarrell. Sorry, I can't even say his name. I don't want to see Miller on a screen ever again. Like, fat embarrassment. Like, it's a joke. Like, I mean, even take away the PEDs, he's got fucking bigger tits than my missus. So like this, I don't want to see people going into a ring in that kind of state anyway. But yeah, I don't want to see Miller near a pay-per-view ever again. So I don't want. And look, the Tyson Fury thing, I agree. Like, he took PEDs, got done for it. The ban probably wasn't long enough. So I'm just saying that it's almost, they've left it too long that now someone is going to have to be the fall guy for it, and then there's going to be, like we're going to have now, people debating about, well, why should it be that person that gets the flack for when people have been getting away with it for so long? it's just a bit of a fucking mess. And one of these boards or even the sanctioning bodies need to kind of step up now and say, look, you know, if you're caught doing this, we're not going to sanction a title fight or a fight under our body for however many years, because everyone's got the ability to put their own stamp their own rules down. So I can't see why everyone's kind of tiptoeing around. It's almost like one doesn't want to upset too many people in case they lose their sanctioning fees and all that. It's just a fucking corrupt mess at the minute, isn't it?
Well, MB makes a point in the chat. He says the problem UCAD have got is if they accuse a boxer before the appeals process is complete, they are open to lawsuits, especially a high-profile fighter. Is this the situation sorted with the White thing? They're saying, oh, he's cleared to fight, but was it because it was so close to fight date and we can't cancel a pay-per-view? You really have to be nailed on, knowing exactly what's happening, having all the facts, and they let it go. That's why he was cleared to fight, because they hadn't got enough to go on to cancel it.
But, and this is the big bit, right? If it gets to that point, then in my eyes, it is the promoters. It's down to the promoter to pull the fight, knowing that there is an issue in the background, not potentially put the opponent in risk. Let's face it, right? If the worst had happened last Saturday, and God forbid, like Oscar Rivas would have got hurt in the ring and potentially passed away, what would have happened then, knowing that we know now?
We wouldn't be getting stories about, oh, it was only trace amounts and he never failed a test, he was cleared to fight and stuff. All you're going to see is headlines, dead fighter, opponent, steroid cheat.
I agree, and you're right about duty of care and all that, but I suppose in the boxing business, cash is king, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Be, Steve, when we're talking about people's lives, it shouldn't be, should it?
I agree.
It's got to this point where it's actually like, it's fucking disgusting that it's money over fucking over a life, really. And Rivas wasn't hurt, you know, fine, but I'm just saying, worst case scenario, and it goes all the way down to even like white collar and that, you know what I mean? Someone like myself who could go out there and have their first fight could be fighting someone who's on fucking tons of gear. Now, I'm not saying there's all the testing in place and all that business.
There isn't.
No, there isn't. That's what I mean. But like, there needs to be, someone needs to kind of, it's almost like grassroots football. Like, you know, things need to start from the top and work their way down. And I feel that this is almost like you know, that's almost what needs to be boxing with the whole drugs scandal at the minute.
Yeah, Editing King throws an excellent point in the chat. Has there ever been a PED hearing on the morning of a fight before? It is quite unprecedented, isn't it?
Fucking it! Like, and who chose that? Who chose that timing? That timing is like unreal. Like it's almost on the verge of saying that's got to be bullshit. But you know, Eddie said it himself. So
even Eddie, how you doing? Even Eddie.
But I'm just, I'm really kind of keen to listen to what you guys have got to say on the matter, because it is really starting to. Because look, let's face it, we're all on here and we all come and listen to this show because we all like boxing at the end of the day. But if every fucker's going to cheat, is it going to be worth watching? Do you know what I mean?
It's getting to the point where it's like you can't watch boxing anymore. You need to go in and read up fucking regulations about fucking drug testing authorities and VADA protocols and shit, just to get a handle on this stuff, man. It's a mind fuck.
So it was Andy that led me to watch. Andy, what was that cycling thing on Netflix?
Oh, Icarus,
right? So I watched that off the back of Andy mentioned it on the show, and I've watched it about 8 times since then. I think it's a brilliant film stroke documentary about the drug scandal. Now, if you think to yourself, right, if Russian athletes can get away with it at an Olympic event, then what's to say that boxers can get away with it really, really easily? On the basis of what we know about the lack of testing and all that, it's just farcical. Like it needs to be like, you can't have these drug testing controllers set up and not actually do any testing. You see all the tweets come out by professional boxers at the minute, you know, saying that they've had this many fights and they've only been tested twice in 6 years and things like that. It's laughable, isn't it?
It is laughable. We'll laugh on till about 10:30 tonight Danny. It's a pleasure to have you on as always. Is there anything you want to add just before we let you go?
No, nothing, mate. Just keep up the good works, gents, and hopefully I'll speak to you soon at some point. I'm hopefully going Campbell Loma, so I'll probably chime in on the day after.
Brilliant, excellent. We'll speak to you then, Danny. All the best.
Take care, gents. Cheers.
Bye bye now. Bye bye. That's Danny Young. Good to hear from him as always. I'll be honest, I'm not positioning myself as any expert on this. My head is in an absolute spin. I've been reading news now all day and looking through the different websites and trying to get up to date on all these testings. Andy's doing amazing amount of work going through applying for documents and trying to work through all the rulings and that. And I'm looking at you guys in the chat and what you're reading. I'm saying, oh, that's a good point. This is a good point. So don't come to me, but I'm liking what I'm hearing from you guys, and educate me, please, because my head is in an absolute spin with all this PED shit, man. I need some PEDs to calm me down on it.
Aye, well, get on the Dynaball, mate. It gives you some testosterone, boost the red blood cells a wee bit and that, It's chaos, man. I mean, obviously, people are saying, obviously, hold off. We don't know the facts and stuff. Well, what we do know is this, something's come back to order the National Doping Agency of this country to call an emergency meeting with a fighter on the morning of before his fight, like 10 hours before his fight or whatever and that. So obviously there's been an issue. The thing about that I've been reading and stuff, I would like to know, about the test and what's it been actually been named as? Is it an atypical finding or is it an adverse finding? So who knows? I think as the way I'm reading it and stuff, and I might be way off here and stuff, but the way I'm reading it says here, if there's been any deviation, so like say for example, if they've maybe fucked up on the actual handling, the kind of drug testing example on that as well, there will be no case to answer. So we've not heard anything like that yet, and Eddie's not come out and said. He's, well, I don't know if anybody's actually asking the question that I can think at the minute, that he says, he's no further drugs test or he has further drugs test. He just says he's been cleared to fight and that is it. So the only way I can think of really is it being an atypical finding that basically means is that UCAD have looked at this atypical finding and they've looked at it themselves. They've handed it to their interested to their panel of people, and they've maybe decided that okay, there's no further action to take to atypical finding. That being the case, it's all speculation. And the situation is this: we've got lawyers out there now, suppressing stories and that from what we're hearing. There's obviously, there's only so much we can actually say as well. I would imagine that as well. But we're only giving their opinion, so we don't know what's factual and stuff. What I will say is this: it's absolutely disgraceful. On the back end, the two fighters dying last week, right? And it sounds bad to maybe use these two guys to make a point, but Oscar Rivas, and it says in the UCAD report as well that all interested parties should be known about the fact. I don't know if I'm misreading that or whatever, but the interested party is basically the interested party relating to who's failed the drugs test rather than everybody who's involved in the actual fight. Okay, maybe I'm reading that wrong, so we'll maybe need people who work with that kind of regulation and legislation will know it better and stuff. But what I do know is this: one, that drug is illegal. Okay, Dianabol. 2, you cannot buy it legally. 3, what's it doing in Dillian White's system? How did it get there? Right? The situation is this: there's 3 options. Either he's been doping, B, somebody's spiked him, or C, it's just like he's been taking, again, like a supplement that's been contaminated. But I'm saying is this: you cannot buy that drug legally. So that means is, if that has somehow got mixed in with some of his supplements, where did that supplement come from then? Because it's clearly been mixed up with this Dianabol, as I say. You can't buy it anywhere, from what I understand, apart from you can buy it online, I suppose. But it's legally, I understand, you can't buy it. So we'll wait and see what comes out. The B sample, for what we've understand of what I've heard, has been requested to be opened. Maybe that's part of the reason as to why the fight went ahead, because due process, whatever. And that, again, as I say, we're all kind of speculating here because nobody's talking. Everybody's just kind of sitting behind a party line. He was cleared to fight. UCAD cleared them. The British Board of Control gave their blessing and all that sort of stuff. There's been a lot of blame fitting. The frames getting fitted and stuff. Like, people are obviously running for cover and stuff. But I'm telling you, Deontay Wilder said it best: if this B sample comes back hot, oh shit, man! I mean, you've got a whole world of fucking problems coming, because I believe Wilder won his case against Povetkin after the B sample came back positive. So
yeah, but there was something about that, wasn't there, Andy? Wasn't there no money? There was a technicality. Didn't Povetkin get away on some kind of judicial technicality?
I can't mind that way, mate. But I do know, as I say, there was a lawsuit eventually pushed on for Wilder's career. So I don't know if it was settled and stuff, but if it does come back positive, there's going to be a case to answer. But the main case is this, right? As I say, you had 2 guys dying last week. Okay, what would the story be? What would the headlines be if the opponents had come back and one had tested positive for steroids? What if one of those fighters who died last week was Oscar Rivas? After that fight, what if Oscar Rivas left that ring like Daziev did last week on his own steam and then collapsed, tried to go down the steps, had to get helped back up and walk back down through the crowd and then collapsed at the back end? I knew it wasn't. I'm not an expert. I'm only giving my opinion, but to be honest, look, I lost a cousin to steroid abuse. He ended up having a heart attack and stuff, and to see that guy, you know, just basically the size that he got and stuff, and that, so I can see. He wasn't educated, so he's probably just pumping himself full of like all that shit, and he's eventually had a heart attack and that. But these guys who are working on like the top level, the access to the lawyers, to the dietitians, to the pharmaceutical companies, stuff like that, who've got the money to pay for it. As I say, maybe he's innocent, but at the same time, you know, how did that get in your system? That is the main question. That is an illegal substance that you cannot buy. How did they get into your system, Dillian? Because, as I say, as Eddie Hearn said yesterday, and I'm not going too heavy on Eddie, but I'll say this: Eddie, you had a duty of care, in my opinion, to tell Yvonne Michelle. For what I hear, by the way, as well, you know, I think you maybe need to fucking look down at the ground the next time you speak to Yvonne Michelle face to face, for what I've been hearing. But moving forward, you know, Eddie, you had a duty of care. You had to say something. Oscar Rivas, you know, he might never have to fight again after the lawsuits off the back end of this. I've lost the kind of train of thought what I'm trying to say here, because my daughter's going to poke me in the back end here. But, I dare say I'll come back to me. There's just so much information. Other people waiting to get involved here and get speaking about it and that as well. As no doubt I'll make more points going along and stuff. But it is a mess, man. I mean, this must be one of the worst cases that I can think of, where it's one of the worst handled drug cases. Now, talking about Fury and that, you know, I can't speak totally about Fury because I lost interest in that case because it just dragged on for far too long, and it looked like he was out the ring for 2 years. It looked like he served his ban. He just kind of dragged it out through the legal process, took him to court and all that sort of stuff. Tried to, you know, looked at the procedures, probably like what I'm doing, looking for flaws. Okay, we'll maybe make an appeal here and see if we can drag it out for the next few months. Maybe that's what they did. Maybe this might happen this time. But you know, I don't know. It's just it's a situation where it's been poorly handled. There's been a lot of blame to go around. There's still a lot of blame to get attached, and it's just a mess. I've said that again. It's just a mess. It's just nobody comes out of this looking good whatsoever. Nobody apart from the Rivas's cloud and the Spencer Fearon, by the way. We'll mention him just right now, to come out and to make spurious allegations that you've heard that Rivas has failed a drugs test. You might come out and say, "Also, I might have, you know, my own opinion that Rivas might be juicing looking on his physique," but to come out and say that you've heard that he's failed a drugs test, and they have Yvonne Michelle then kind of like start, you know, who is this person? Then they have IFL delete the video, I believe. I don't know if it's still there. Maybe it's been amended or maybe altered and stuff like that. Just shows you again, you know, again, people try to kind of get on the party line and get the frame fitting and get the blame attached and stuff. It's going to be an interesting few months in that, but as I say, this could drag on for months, maybe even years. But what I do know is this: if Dillian White's B sample comes back positive, he's looking down the barrel of a 4-year ban, and that's his career. And it will be disgusting to find out if this fight went ahead. Allegedly, if this fight went ahead, just to save a payday, they say, "Look, listen, you might not get another one off the back end of this." It will be absolutely disgusting if that is the case. But as I say, UCAD have got to answer for why did you let that fight go ahead. You can't hide behind fucking data protection laws and all that sort of stuff. You've got to be absolutely transparent here, because I think it was Danny who mentioned it as, you know, the Fury case was poorly handled. I've got people saying this is one of the worst cases I've heard of being, you know, a case being, you know, again, shoddily handled. There's going to be examples made here now, because either we're going to, if the example isn't made, it's going to be a vicious cycle. It's going to continue, and the next person's going to get caught. And one of these days, it's going to come out. A fighter's going to be badly damaged, and he's going to come out after the fight, after the fact, that he's failed a drugs test or he's been known to be a drugs cheat or whatever, and that. And then what happens then? You're looking at lawsuits. The board could get sued and fucking shut down or whatever, and that. UCAD. It's just, again, a mess. Absolute mess. Nobody and nothing comes out of this looking good whatsoever. And the sport itself, if anybody came out and says to you last week that, make a good argument in 2019 for this sport not to be banned after 2 deaths in the ring and after how it was handled and stuff like that, and then have a fella come off a fucking drugs test for steroids. Make a case not to have the sport banned. You couldn't make one. You couldn't make you got a neurologist or a physician up to make a case. You cannot argue against it to have this sport banned ever.
Andy laid down the gauntlet, everybody. We're going to tie up a couple of other things before we get the boys in. Rapping Rob Kelly's on the call. Rob, I am going to slightly change tack and bring you in on either Maurice Hooker or Jervonta Davis, whichever fight you want to talk about, while I ring up our final guest of the evening. Welcome, Rob.
Jervonta, I suppose I've always said about him, despite the outside the ring antics, I think he's a very good fighter, and I think he showed that again last night against Nunez, who was coming in on a reputation for being a bit of a knockout artist himself at 140.
Wrong. He fought a nobody.
Right, but he's coming in with a guy who got punched or whatever, and was confident in the first round. Boxed okay in the first round, I thought. Nunez. The second round, he tries to play to the crowd, turns his head around, and out of the clinch, Jervonta is punching as he's holding, and he paid the price for it. I thought it was a fair stoppage. I think the referee was right, especially in the light of what's happened in the last week or so, and in Maryland as well, that they weren't going to take any risks. You know what I mean? That they absolutely weren't going to take any risks on this. They were going to stop it if there was any fighter in trouble, and he was defenseless with his hands by his side, and Jervonta is a big puncher, so he was teeing off on him. I think he was going to knock him out anyway, so timely stoppage probably in light of what's happened over the last few weeks with that one. And my man Mighty Mo gets knocked out. Ramirez, I hadn't seen much of Ramirez before that. Proven to be a very good fighter himself, a cracking little fight, but Mighty Mo coming unstuck again. Fair stoppage, I think, in that Mighty Mo completely defenseless, and Ramirez victorious. So
victorious indeed. Sorry guys, just caught on the hop there. Just getting thrown a 1-2. Gabe, back to Jervonta Davis against Ricardo Nunez from you quickly before we go on to the big stuff. Just give us 30 seconds or so. He was like a swaggering early version of Floyd, I thought, letting the opponent work, knowing he had nothing there to hurt him, and knowing that he could just unleash and explode at any point. And that's exactly what Jervonta Davis did and got rid of this guy. Those left hooks were brutal that he finished him with.
Yeah, I felt like that. I don't know, man. I mean, I think he is a tremendously talented fighter, and he's got power to burn. I just feel like he's got all the potential in the world. But why aren't we seeing this guy step up and fight some top level competition? To me, that's the downfall of this kid right now. For me, I don't give a shit about the fight last night. I mean, I saw it, but it wasn't like thrilling to me. I wasn't excited for that fight. As a matter of fact, I still don't give a fuck. He did what he was supposed to do with a guy who didn't offer anything. Put the kid in with somebody who's going to challenge him, because that's the only way he's ever going to improve. And that's the only way you're ever going to see what the kid's really capable of. And that's the only time that you're going to find out what he's really got. Is he really as good as he says he is? Is he really as good as a lot of people seem to think he is? And I'm not going to say that he's not. I feel like he could be a damn good fighter. But I don't want to see him with this nonsense fights. Put him in with top-notch guys. Be done with it. Let him test himself. Because I'm telling you, if he did that, he'd come out on top more often than not. That's how I feel about the situation with Jervonta Davis. I mean, he's a prick. I think he's just a shit show outside of the ring. But I feel like he could be capable of so much more. And he's number one is his contract with Floyd and them ain't going to help him show that. And then I don't even really think he has the balls to try it out himself, because I don't know how confident he is in his own abilities. But I'm telling you, the kid is supremely talented. He would put on a lot of good fights out there, and probably make quite a bit more money than he's making right now. But they won't test him, and they won't push him further to see how good he really is. And I think, to me, that's disappointing.
And any quick words from you on old Jervonta, or maybe about Yuriorkis Gamboa? An impressive knockout of his own on the undercard. Big Puerto Rico against Cuban battle.
Yeah, Rocky's beyond wash, man.
Didn't look great, did he, Martinez, on the old stomach department?
Yeah, he can't hold a shot anymore. I mean, I remember that guy being tough to take shots and that. But I forget, was that 135 by any chance, that fight? I think it would be, or 140. Yeah. But it was it's a battle of the washed. Jervonta Davis, I agree with what Danny was saying as well, is we need to see him now in a certain class, because he's okay, he doesn't fight often enough in that as well, but I just like to see him, just fight a wee bit kind of better opposition. Again, maybe he'll step up and fight Loma at some point, who knows. But just Hugo Ruiz, man, he's seen better days. Quellar, okay, probably a fringe world level guy. I mean, I'm not hating on Davis. I think he's a good fighter. I really do. But I just want to see him tested at this point. As you say, he's hanging about with fucking baby bro, getting out of shape, getting into antics and stuff like that. And as I say, he's hanging about Baltimore, and that's not going to be good for him either. But I just want to I want to see him tested. That's all I'm saying before I kind of start making how his career's going to go in that. Because at this point, fighting what he's fighting, naturally he's going to be undefeated and knock up the knockout wins and stuff, and fringe world titles and that. But I just want to see him in just better caliber opposition. Don't know who at this point. You got any names you can throw out there at the minute?
Tevin Farmer's the one I want to see.
He'd walk through Farmer, I think. I mean, Farmer's okay defensively, I think, but I seen somebody say on Twitter last night it reminded him of Sweet Pea. I mean, what? Sweet Pea never took shots like that last night.
That was Lukey boxing, though. He's a notorious dweeb.
Was it? But I'm like, come on, man. I mean, I didn't see.
That was a disrespect. Like, how could you fucking compare Tevin Farmer to Parnell Whitaker after he just dying as well? Like, oh, fucking horrendous that was.
So I don't know. I mean, who's the other belt holder, mate? The guy who had the big knockout win.
Well, there's a few. The reason I say I want to see him fight Tevin Farmer is because he's knocking out everybody, as you said, but at least he'll have knocked somebody out with a bit of a name. Cancio knocked out the Dyer Machado, didn't he? You've got Miguel Bichelt, who's across the street, WBC, and you've got Jamel Herring. Davis would destroy him.
Well, I've just brought up the WBA rankings there and that as well. I noticed Roger Gutierrez in there. Jezreel Corrales got beat last night. I don't know if he got stopped, but I know he got.
No, he lost a split, I think, didn't he?
Split decision. Abraham Nova, I think he's a Puerto Rican. I think he's undefeated. And then you got Abner Mares, who's coming off surgery on his eye, and that don't know if it's a detached retina or whatever it is. Jason Velez, he's past his peak, and that he's ranked third. I mean, that is your. That's your 130 stable in WBA. So you're looking across at Miguel Bichelt. I know that's top rank situation. I think it is. I don't know. I mean, obviously you want to see the belts get tied up. So if it's going to be Farmer and Hearn, bring them on. But it's slim pickings at the weight, like.
It is slim pickings. Let's get stuck into our main talking point of the evening, then, shall we? The Dillian White situation. Before we go to Rob, let's play a little intro, which will hopefully get the juices flowing. No pun intended.
You call yourself a man? You know you're a lying, low-life, motherfucking gambling, degenerate prick. You know that's what you are?
Let's all be honest, man. We want to be honest, yeah. There are so many drug cheats in America. Right, across all, I'm not saying about boxing, I'm saying across all sports. You need to have an independent commission for boxing. Let's all be honest, man. We want to be honest, yeah. You know what? Allegedly, I heard from a good source. But it's allegedly, so I don't want no one trying to sue me. But allegedly, Oscar Rivas has failed a test. This is the talk that I'm hearing. So if it has, and that comes out, then I'll say, right. I'm saying don't point the finger. Too many people point the finger at Dillian White. I'm saying, listen, you saw how elated I was. Dillian White come from the ends. Do you know what I mean? Even worse, he actually came from Jamaica, where he can hold his hands up and said he had nothing, and came here and made something of his life. Let's all be honest, man. We want to be honest, yeah. I'm glad that we found out, because this is a fight game, and I don't want people going into the ring with an edge physically in such a damaging sport. Yeah. So in that respect, I'm very glad that we found out that this was happening with this particular fighter. And again, he's pleaded his innocence. He might have been unlucky.
It might have been intentional, might have been unintentional. Doesn't matter. He's failed a drugs test, and everybody has to be dealt with in the same way.
Let's all be honest, man. You know, we want to be honest, yeah.
He could have said, "Oh yeah, I took this supplement and I didn't know." What he's done is downright cold-blooded cheating.
Let's all be honest, man. You know, we want to be honest, yeah.
This is a fight game. People have died in that ring. People get damaged for life in that ring. And to do what he has done is cowardly, in my opinion.
You're a fucking bum. You're a fucking asshole. I hope you fucking die for fucking around with the sport by taking drugs.
Well said, Derek. Well said.
Evening, Eddie. Evening, Eddie. How you doing, mate? You got the lawyers. How you doing, Frank? Hey, listen, I bet you when that news broke and that, I bet you Frank fucking Smith ran like a fucking Forrest Gump out the fucking office, by the way. Because Eddie would be looking for those gloves and that. Put the gloves on, you wee wanker, that punch fuck at you. And a bit, You did, Eddie.
Ripping the body. Ripping the body off
the body. Evening, Frank.
Now, Rob, let's come to you first. Now, Eddie, to be fair, has called for people to wait for the facts before judging Dillian White's latest failed drugs test. Let's wait for the facts, Rob. What do we know? What do you know so far?
Well, I can only really tell you about my opinions and my experiences this week. So I tweeted that Dillian White getting popped in the same week where two fighters died just didn't sit right with me. Like, I mean, I honest to God at this stage, like, I'm so almost done with the sport. I said in the chat, if Lomachenko or Terence Crawford get popped for steroids, I could be done. Because the days of natural megastars in boxing are over. HBO is gone. Classic boxing broadcasting is dead. Classic boxing writing is dead. We haven't got as many great fighters coming through. And you've got this endemic doping in the sport that's ruining the sport. It's almost, look at the heavyweight division of all of them that got popped. It's like the 100-meter sprinters when Usain Bolt is 3 seconds faster than everybody, but 7 of them have been popped for doping previously. Just the other 3 haven't got caught. That's what it just feels like with the heavyweights at the moment. That's what it feels like. I don't know, Dillian White, who was cleared to fight by UCAD. And Eddie is right in a lot of what he's saying when he's going on defense mode in the States about the commission's not enforcing random drug testing. They're not. And some of these deaths may well have been at the hand of fighters that were doping. And Andy said rightly, we are in a climate right now where people can get up in arms, and rightly so. We can't defend our sport anymore. We're constantly on here complaining about judging, and now the fighters are making it worse by applying their expertise through these loopholes to cycle off and get the benefits of these performance-enhancing drugs where they're hitting fellas in the head. So, you know, Eddie's not the only one. This goes back to Floyd versus Manny with the therapeutic use exemption, where Manny's camp wasn't informed that Floyd had been given a TOE by USADA. So it's rotten to the core. However, my opinion, my personal opinion, my biggest fear is, as a dad, is not getting home to the 2 girls, right? And I'm only just working, right? So my 2 biggest fears are not being able to put food on the table and not being able to come home to the 2 girls. And I'm not in anywhere where somebody's punching me in the head. So Rivas's camp were fully within their rights to have been informed that the fighter failed for a steroid. He's been cleared to fight, but we feel we have a duty-based responsibility to inform you that Dillian White has been popped, right? And you hear Spencer Fearon talking about, Dillian White's from Jamaica. So what? Does that give him a fucking pass? He's from Jamaica. Rivas is from Colombia. That's no picnic either. Like, so don't be talking shit like about just because you like him that you feel like that he's innocent. I like a lot of fighters. I like Dillian White. I was on the pod last week, bigging Dillian White up. I've been saying for months, Dillian White is after putting himself in a pay-per-view position for a fighter of his ability. Fair play to him. He came from fucking kickboxing. He's got 4 pay-per-views on Sky. Congratulating him. And then I fucking find out he's after popping for steroids. He hasn't just got that better, in my opinion. He hasn't just gotten better. He hasn't just gotten improved. He hasn't got this Superman-like durability out of nowhere, it appears to me. This is a second-time doping offence. The first time he said it was a supplement. Now, I don't know if he's guilty or not. B samples, 90% of the time, B samples will come back positive as well, right? So there's a 10% chance, in my opinion, then that he's not cheating. And I'm not a gambling man, but I wouldn't back that. Like, so I'm just disgusted. It's not just Eddie, as I said, but to see him under pressure this week and then to see him call the journalist a clown when the guy was looking for answers. He wanted to know why he was cleared to fight. You tell me, why was he cleared to fight? Well, tell us why he was cleared to fight. No, dodging the questions, lawsuits being chucked around all over the
Attack
place.
the man, not the message, Rob.
Yeah, and up on his high horse over Big Baby Miller, and rightly so. Big Baby Miller was caught rotten. He's disgraced as well. But up in arms, and now all of a sudden he followed protocol. Well, I followed protocol. I didn't need to tell him. Psychologically, what would that do to him 3 days before the fight? And then let's get to their off-camera chat that was caught. And credit to whoever leaked that from the post-fight press conference when they sat down. And what did Eddie say? It was a lot of it's inaudible, but you can make out the gist of the conversations. White says, I haven't slept in 2 days. Eddie says, I haven't slept either. But I wasn't the one having the fight. Listen, I had a statement ready. That's the miracle of all miracles. So what's the miracle of all miracles? It's the miracle of all miracles is you got cleared to fight in this pay-per-view went ahead. And then Dillian saying it's a stitch up. It's like 1,000,000 to 1 chance that's going to get. And he cuts him off because someone comes close. So I don't give a shit about the Boxing Social interview or the one where he comes out to IFL and he's given his, I can't say much, but this is what I can say, when he's completely given that Scottish guy who had the best of intentions, I think, of asking him a tough question. He's completely given him the runaround. He's boxing circles around him. He can't live with him. But the American guy stuck it up to him. And what did he do? He couldn't answer the question, so he started insulting the guy and calling him a clown. Now, there's certain guys you get away with that. But all those little camera guys that they're afraid of not getting their credentials. They don't want to ask them tough questions. But the Americans are not coming to their shows anyway, so they don't care. They'll ask him the question. And there's only certain people he would call a clown to. But, you know, I thought that spoke volumes. If you're innocent and you've nothing to hide, you don't react like that, to me. But I'm sorry, I've probably gone on too long on it now.
No problem, Rob. Everyone can have the floor. Everyone can have their say. No clowns here. Adam Smith's on the call. We're coming to you shortly. I want to try and clear up the jargon as we go on, guys. As much for myself as anybody else, but there are a few different terms being thrown about. So let's clear up the B sample then. So when an athlete is tested, they give a single sample of either blood or urine. This sample is then divided into 2 parts. I am reading this out: an A sample and a B sample, and securely sealed. Generally, the B sample is only analysed if the A sample has been found to contain a prohibited substance. Athletes also have the opportunity to be present at the re-analysis of a B sample, which is not the case with the A. So we've cleared up the B sample there, Smido. First of all, Smid, welcome to you this evening, sir. Frank Warren on Boxing Scene is not happy about Rivas's team not being informed before the big pay-per-view that there was some kind of issue. Do you agree with Frank, Smido?
I'm not sure that I can agree with anyone at the moment because we don't know the facts. Firstly, as Rob said, he's nearly out the door. I am out the door. I'm beyond casual. I've been watching it from afar this week. I've quite enjoyed the fallout.
Hi, Eddie.
Eddie Hearn under pressure has been absolutely glorious, and I've enjoyed that like all the rest of us. On drugs generally, I think they're all at it, and I have done for a while, and I don't particularly care that much. I don't really look into it, the ins and outs. Obviously, there's different levels of cheating and different levels of guilt, apparently. I do think, I know I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent, but I know how we say people putting people's lives at risk. I think it's not out the question that someone is already dead or long-term injured seriously with someone that was on drugs that we just don't know about.
Not caught, yeah.
And we'll never know about. I think that's probably already happened. On the Dillian White thing, I think he's guilty of sin, and I pretty much hope they are. I hope the pack of cards falls down. I think they've played it like pricks this week, and I think that's what they deserve. So don't get me wrong, I think they're guilty of sin. But what I am saying, and what I have said in the chat a couple of times this week, there's only basically one person been talking, and that's Edward. White's put out some shit statement. Boxing Board of Controller put out some shit statement, both of which said pretty much nothing. So the only person that's been speaking, unsurprisingly, is Edward. At no stage has he used the words failed test or B sample. So we all think that he's failed a test and they've asked for a B sample, they've caused a delay and they've been cleared to fight. I think that as well. That's pretty obvious. That's what we all think's happened, but no one's confirmed that yet. So I'm just playing devils, and I don't hate Edward as much as what you lot do and most of Twitter do. But what if it turns out that it might just be something or nothing? Because I know that this has been said over and over again, but he has actually been cleared to fight. I don't want to sound like Fastcar, but he has been cleared to fight apparently on the morning of the fight. So apparently there were some questions to answer. And what if they've answered those adequately? It was either an anomaly or it was just some sort of confusion between VADA and the British Boxing Board, or I don't know. It could be anything of that because he's been so he knows, he's not daft. He knows the statements he's made before about banned for life, don't want to work with him. If you've knowingly cheated, you should be banned for life. He knows he said all that. And he knows he's in a very difficult situation. Because if Dillian White has been knowingly cheating, then Edward Hearn is going to fall on his face along with Dillian White. So, you know, if he didn't think that this is going to blow over, then maybe Edward would have been quiet this week. I know he struggles to do that. But if he knew he was guilty of sin, maybe he would have been quiet. But he does seem pretty dug in over this. I don't know, maybe he's either panicked or there's no plan. I mean, obviously they didn't plan for this news to come out. So I'm just playing devils. They've not confirmed he's failed a test. They've not confirmed that he's asked for a B sample. That's what we all think, and we've seen it happen before. But
if he hadn't failed a sample, though, they would come out and say that straight away.
Because
that's how they get out in front of this thing. If there was nothing to answer to, they would have mentioned it straight away. Because the first thing you do when you fail a test, the first thing you got to do is get out in front of this shit, because there's a shitstorm coming in. So how you deal with it is going to be rapid, and they've been. Well, look at Eddie Hearn says to Andy McCarron at IFL, wait till the facts come out. He's released a statement tomorrow. Statement comes out, it's a fucking 4-line tweet.
Oh yeah, it was crap. But we have seen before, correct me if I'm wrong, with the likes of Eric Morales, who failed a test but was still able to fight. So I mean, it's horrible how the whole situation works. And
at least Garcia knew about Morales being doped though.
But then we're saying VADA only report to the promoter or the fighter, and they
everybody
bans, and then Boxing Board of Control have to report to this and do it. It's all smoke and mirrors to me. I don't really understand it, but I'm just playing devils. But you know, on the latest interview that Edward did, he was quick enough to use the words failed test in regards to Tyson Fury, and we've seen what happened there. That was 2 or 3 years of smoke and mirrors, anonymity. It could go on, and it could get brushed under the carpet.
Did we come to a conclusion in that case, Smido? Just keeping with the theme, I'm just wondering.
Not for my money. I mean, I've not read the report. I know some people have. Andy probably has read the report for the Tyson Fury case. Fair enough. I've not. To me, if you ask Tyson Fury, he says he's never failed a test and he was a victim. Could be telling the truth. More than likely, he's bullshitting. But it could just get brushed under the carpet. You know, I know that people from Sky have said, well, why would he have waited 600 days and then why would he run the risk of doping? But maybe he's been doping for 5 years and he's just been caught on this occasion. Maybe Antonio Margarita was fighting with loaded gloves and only got caught on one occasion. Maybe he wasn't.
There's something else. I mean, okay, but again, pure speculation. Probably people might have. I know that the Dave the Hater was on and stuff. Anybody that follows MMA, for example, will know that there's a fighter called John Jones. He's failed like multiple drugs tests, some are for PED, some are for like recreational drugs and stuff. Now, apparently, in the past, I need to go back. There's a good podcast with Jeff Nowitzki with Joe Rogan and stuff like that. He'd explained that he got caught for something that was like a grain of salt had been split into 16 million pieces or something like that, something along those lines. Anyway, that's what he got caught on, right, John Jones, and it was called like a Paulson effect. So basically what it was is he was getting tested, and he was getting negative test results, and then bang, he got a positive result. And it was based on I think it was an opinion that that maybe because of what he'd been using before, it was still in his system. That there might be obviously this metabolite within his body. It might release it again into the blood system, and then that's how you get a positive drug test and stuff like that. So it might be something he's maybe used in the past. It's been sitting dormant and it's just like re-released itself in the system. I'm not, again, it's pure speculation.
Andy, my question to you: so say he has failed an A sample for whatever steroids, and the British Boxing Board of Control know about that, and they ask for a B sample. Why would the British Boxing Board of Control let the fight go ahead? I think,
again, I'm not sure if I've read it right. I dare say people will correct me and give me shit if I'm wrong, but I think I think it depends on what kind of reading they give back. If it's analytical, if it's an adverse finding, atypical or whatever, and that as well. But if it's a cut and shut, and they know for a fact that it is a steroid, it's absolutely positive. I think they were supposed to, if they request a B sample to be tested, the due process is going to be allowed to continue. So I think it then goes ahead. I think. All parties should be notified, but again, it isn't clear as to say it says all interested parties. So is that interested parties to the fighter only, or is it to also including the other party as well? i.e. Oscar Rivas in this situation.
If there's reasonable, Ozzy wants to come in here. If there's reasonable doubt, Oz, I'm thinking that it's going to go ahead in most cases, given the nature of boxing. Have you got something to say on that, Ozzy?
Well, the way I see it is that they obviously found out 3 days before the fight that this test came through. Calls were made, etc., things like that, and then they came out and they had this hearing on the morning of the fight. Now, from what I can see that's happened, they've gone in, it's all been presented, and they have requested a B sample, which then ultimately delays anything that can happen. The easiest comparison I can put it to is when, say, if you get in football, you get sent off and you appeal the suspension doesn't kick in until the further findings and hearing has happened. Now, I can see it with this. So by them requesting the B sample and, providing whatever, say a couple of tests from, say, 2 weeks ago, it then allowed the fight to go ahead, which they were cleared, because imagine UCAD postponed it and then the B sample comes back clear. That would open up a whole legal loop in terms of legal cases there for like loss of earnings, etc.
Yeah, that's what I thought, Oz, to be fair.
Like that. So,
but in that case, we've got to be talking about personal safety. They've got to run. It's worth running that risk. Fuck the fans. Fuck the pay per view.
The other thing as well is Audrey says in that as well is, I mean, considering the amount of lawsuits kicking about or the talk of them, you mean to say there's been maybe a wee tip of the wink to the board and that you suspended.
Well, I'm not sure about that. No, from the promoters' side, in my opinion, they've got a duty of care for all fighters on there. So that's providing whether it be oxygen, the right amount of like ambulances, medical, etc., things like that. Now, the fact that regardless whether this was a main event fight or this was first on the card at 4:30, the fact that 50% of the fight was pulled in front of the board due to a failed test and the opposition were not notified is a disgrace. I don't buy the rubbish that, we didn't have to tell him. That is wrong. If this was on the other side and they'd gone to Colombia and done this, and then this all came out, they would be going ballistic and saying how it's out of order, that they've not been notified and they went into the ring knowing that the fighter was juiced up or something like that. That is wrong. That is completely wrong. Now, by everything that is coming out at the moment is a case of he was cleared to fight. Yes, he probably was. He was cleared to fight. The fight went ahead. And that is because by basically saying, right, we'll take the B sample, it just broadens and extends, the testing period. That's it. So they can't do anything. And in that case, yeah.
I don't know though about this. I don't know about this B sample. It's sketchy because, as far as I could see on UCAD, if you request the B sample, you have an option. Rather, you have an option to have a hearing immediately, or request a B sample. And if you request a hearing, then you're waiving that B sample, I think. So I'm not sure, but I know in the hearing, Eddie is saying that he presented the findings from VADA, and that UCAD was satisfied with the findings from VADA, and that's why they sanctioned the fight. So that's what they're saying at the moment. So we know protocol is B sample, but I haven't heard any confirmation that they've requested B sample and maybe had the hearing instead.
Provided previous tests to support their argument, and I believe they have. And from what I've been speaking to people who are a lot closer to this, and they said the B sample has been requested. Now, Another thing that is doing me as well is that when the story was first released, it's been criticised straight away. I mean, we've seen Eddie say, "Oh, it's a story on Boxing Scene." It doesn't matter whether it's on Boxing Scene, The Sun, the Daily Mail. It's the author of the story you've got to look at it from. This is coming from Thomas Hauser, probably one of the most respected boxing journalists in the sport. This guy doesn't just print, waste his time and do any old rubbish. He's got previous stories like this.
He's a lawyer, man.
Yeah, he's very respectable. Now, it's regardless of what website it's gone on, it doesn't really matter. Now, I'm seeing a lot of, there's a lot of things that are factually incorrect. Now, in my line of work, I've worked at newspapers before. If a story is factually incorrect, the accused more than has the right to have that story retracted, withdrawn, or amended from where it is factually correct. Now, they can do this if it's something serious, that they can simply issue a legal letter by saying this, or they can simply provide evidence which rubbishes the initial report. Now, that story's been, live now 5 days. It's been picked up all over the national news, and there's not been any amends, it's still out there, and it's still live, and nothing has been changed.
It's like
that story.
It's like when sorry, man, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I guarantee Reno got all the troops together at Boxing Scene Towers by, because you can guarantee, I bet the lawyers got in touch about that article, guaranteed, right? And it's still there, I believe. So what does that say?
Go ahead, Rob.
Well, it goes back to what I said, and this one really hurt me. The Canelo one really hurt me, man. I was such a big fan of Canelo. Watched him the whole way up. Was just so, when you watch a fighter and he becomes the one, and not everybody believes it at the start, and you believe it, and then he goes and does it, and you're rooting for him, like, only to find out this fucker was doping as well. But at the time, it goes back to what I was saying at the time. You really want to be exonerated. Get that hair sample, baby. You kept your hair long. You said in the post-fight press conference, go and come forward with the hair sample and do everything you can to show that you've been exonerated. Else, you know what I mean? It's not looking good. That's a lengthy ban coming. That's the end. That's a career ender.
Yeah.
And no, Eddie is all this week now. All this week he's in the States, and he wants boxing collectively to do something about doping. Well, we all agree with that. But how about you start it then? How about you start it and say any matchroom fighter that gets popped is out?
How's I made a good point actually saying, like, so, you know, like Eddie and Sky, Aram and Matchroom, Top Rank and ESPN and so on and so forth. Warning BT and that they will refuse to put fighters on their shows unless they know that they are signed up to VADA testing year round, and whatever it's to be and stuff like that. That would be a start, I suppose. But again, VADA testing basically is fighters paying for it. At the end of the day, is they've got to pay for it, or the promoter pays for it.
I think it's gotta be mentioned that Dillian White said before he did not take the AJ fight. He said that the money was low and that he wanted a 12-week camp because he was afraid about cycling off. So he sounds to be the type of person who's very familiar with the scene there, and that's not the first time. And of course, didn't he tweet when AJ got beat by Ruiz? The drugs don't work. So he seems like he has a lot of insight and knowledge. I'm not saying that that means anything, but it's worthy of note.
Smido, you make your point quickly because I want to bring Gabe in, sir.
Yeah. Just on the duty of care, I think you have to take the safety first approach. It basically sounds like they've requested a B sample and the fight's gone ahead on a technicality. But when you get pulled over for drink driving and you fail the test at the roadside, they take you in for the second test on the betting machine at the police station. They don't let you drive to the police station; they take you in. So, safety first approach must be taken. We're dealing with people's lives here.
That's a good point. Ryan Younger on Twitter threw in a good point. He said, boxing is a joke now, no longer the best versus the best. It's all out chemical warfare. Well done to Andy for seeing that one. The boys in the chat are still chattering away as well. Ross Phillips said, I thought it was quite easy to understand. It's a confidential case which has privacy between the fighter and the British Board of Boxing Control. How can Hearn give out information that could bite him legally? Hamed, who's coming on shortly. Exactly, it's an ongoing investigation to many people claiming to be PED experts. Hamed can come on and be that expert for us. Also, Sleep 99, no one has come out to disprove the original How's the Boxing Scene article, like the boys were saying. Therefore, there's smoke somewhere. Is there smoke as far as you're concerned, Gabe? What's the view from across the pond? Tell us.
Well, I'm not sure exactly what the general consensus is for several reasons, because it's kind of hard to follow with all the stuff that's going on. There's not any major outlets that have broken this story. Typically you can go to, maybe like your ESPN is going to be a big hub of news, but all they've got on there is that Hearn has said that White got cleared. So I think you don't really know exactly what to think when you're seeing all this information everywhere. I'll just put it to you this way, in terms of using a little bit of common sense and considering the things that have been said, have not been said, so on and so forth. So in my opinion, if there was nothing wrong, if there was a sample and it came back negative, there would have been none of this to start with. Somehow Hauser wouldn't have got his paws on some information that he got to break the news. I just find it very unlikely that the situation would have started, period, end of story. Now, let's look at this in accordance with that. The fact that Eddie Hearn hasn't outright gone a complete defensive on this and shown proof contrary to what we've seen that White failed the test, we know Eddie Hearn to some degree. If there was a situation where he could say, pull out a piece of paper and post it on social media to discredit Hauser and the other outlets that have gone on to report on the story, I feel like he would have done it. I don't know how you guys feel, but I probably feel like he would have accomplished that already and gotten that whole thing erased. The other issue is we keep waiting for this statement to be made. Well, what are you going to state between what happened with the news breaking and now? What has changed, or what kind of bullshit nonsense have you made up to try to cover your tracks? It doesn't take long to put out a statement. He's got people that handle social media. He's got people that are in charge of publicity. He's got all these people in different places that should be able to do this within the first half hour of Hauser's statement breaking and making it to him. So I really think that there's something going on here in regards to what we're seeing, because there hasn't been any solid attempt to me from Hearn to disprove it. Now we've got Hearn saying, let's wait and see what happens. Let's wait for the statement. I mean, what is Dillian White going to say that's going to change our minds about all this bullshit? That's the real question, is what statement can be made to make any of us not believe that he has been using performance-enhancing drugs.
I think that's quite simple, Gabe. It could just say that they've not failed a test, because no one said that, and no one's asked a fucking question. No one has asked, did Dillian White fail a test? No one's asked that.
He needs to put himself up for an autopsy now, actually, because as Eddie Hearn says, I think it was in the Independent, with Jack Rathbone's piece, I think he was quoted as saying, it's a long way back for White now, especially in the eyes of the public. He's got to come out and put everything possible to prove that he's clean, because, to the purposes, everybody thinks he's guilty, because, how many times have we seen it at the top end of the sport where there's millions to be made? I've said it before. You need to be an absolute mug, not to be using to either get forward or to recover. Okay, now this drug apparently helps with both, if it is this drug that we're talking about, allegedly. Better put that in there before the lawyers get involved. But no, it's.
No, I agree with you 110%, and that's part of what I'm saying is we haven't seen him say anything about it. We know that people are talking about it. We know damn well he knows people are talking about it. If people are making these comments, making accusations, throwing out claims, then you would think that he would be much more, if he were innocent.
I just think it's so telling that Eddie said in his first interview where he's like, stuff I can't tell you, it's a legal case, but his statement is going to clear it all up tomorrow. In other words, I'm going to dodge all these tough questions, and then Dillian's going to put out a statement, and his statement was nothing. Nothing. So in other words, I'm the king of misdirection. I'm just not answering these questions. I'm going to write this wave out.
That's exactly the point that I'm making.
His statement was fine. He said he won it fair and square.
I don't think that any of the stuff that's come out has done anything to discredit any of it, which is the main issue. If Rob, let's ask this question. I can put it in a good context for you. Let's say that you put out a new track, and somebody says you're buying lines from somebody else. That you took a line from 3 or 4 other artists, or maybe that one of your tracks had some beats or something from some other artist.
Give it a better one. Someone that wrote it for me. That's the only one that works in that connotation.
Let's go with anything.
Have it whatever you want. If you're accused of a crime or whatever the fuck it is.
If I came out and said that, wouldn't you want to have some kind of comment or proof to the contrary that you could show that wasn't the case? You just
Absolutely.
don't. Back. Nobody just sits back and allows people to say these things or put forth these accusations without some kind of reprimand or reply back or
Fighters always do the same thing when they get popped too. They say, I never knowingly took anything into my body that I thought was going to give me a performance enhancement edge. I never knowingly put it. So they know, come on, they know what they're saying. Like, these guys know what they're taking. I know fighters are not rocket scientists or anything.
But they haven't even done that, Rob. They haven't even done that.
Yeah, well, see, can I just throw this in here because I did read the UCAD report on the final decision for the first field test, and it was stated. Give me a second, I'll actually read it out to you. Joseph Long gave evidence. He adopted a true and accurate as his written statement. He confirmed that there was on occasion about 12 months ago when the respondent, in this case Dillian White, was advised to stop using the product. So he was advised a year before he got caught with it to stop using it, and he was still using it. And but in the same report, he states that he took 45 scoops of the stuff before he went into the fight on the day of the fight.
Right, Gabe, anything you want to wrap up with before we get hammered in?
Yeah, I don't see how there's not some attempt to conceal the results of the test, to conceal the fact that he has taken something. I think we all know to a fair degree what's going to happen at this point, and that's pretty much nothing. I don't see anything coming of it. I mean, what will they do? They'll just make up some bullshit excuse that Dillian White had some kind of testosterone issue or some kind of nonsense, and they'll use that as a reason why he took supplement whatever or drug whatever, and that'll be their final answer, and then it's all done and gone and swept under the rug, and he goes on to have another big pay-per-view fight in a couple of months, and we're all back to square one again. And I mean, that's really it. I just, even if he did or didn't, I don't see what comes of it, because they're going to find a way to get around it like they always fucking do.
When Billy Joe Saunders,
they got the Cuban Guillermo Jones. Was it Jones?
Yeah, Guillermo Jones.
They got the Cuban Guillermo Jones because he didn't have a big high-profile backer like Eddie Hearn. They had the Tyson Fury ordeal, and they were able to sweep it under the rug and then come back with the mental health issues and so on and so forth. So there's always a fucking way to sweep it under the rug, and they'll always do it. And at this point, I just don't know that there's much that you can do to counteract it unless you were to find somebody that just really had something out and wanted to make a model out of Dillian White, and that's not going to
happen. Go ahead, Rob.
Sorry, I know you want to bring Hammond in there. I just say I know that I think it's very, very telling as well that when Billy Joe Saunders was popped for nasal spray by UCAD, but wasn't on the VADA list, and the commission chose not to license him, Eddie was saying, well, look, you can't be going there was something, he failed the test, and there was something in the system, and we deserve to know that. We can't just have fellas coming into the ring that are after failing tests, regardless of whether they're cleared the fight by. So, speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Right, Ahmed, before you come in, wee bit of housekeeping. Someone mentioned a TUE earlier. That's a therapeutic use exemption, which is a certificate stating that a substance can be administered to an athlete to treat a medical condition. It's not a performance-enhancing drug. These are all terminologies that maybe people know, maybe they don't, just throwing it out there. So we're all on the same page here. No one's sitting at home going, what the fucking are they talking about? Episode 333 of the Nuthouse podcast. Smido's here, Rob's here, Ozzy's here, Gabe's here, Andy's here. I'm Steve. You're Hamed. What have you got to say for yourself?
All right, first of all, this, I want to say, is similar case to the Billy Joe Saunders in terms of the parties involved. But Billy Joe Saunders didn't fail for nasal spray. I think I made a comment on that on Twitter the other day as well. I think people need to address it properly. He actually failed for a drug was called oxylofrene, but he blamed it on nasal spray, which I think was BS, because I think I was reading that's a steroid. I don't know if... I wouldn't believe that. I think the Massachusetts Commission did the right thing by not letting him fight. Who was it? Was it Andrade? But with this case, this ongoing case, I think too many people are blaming Eddie Hearn. And I'm not really a fan of Eddie Hearn, but he is, at the end of the day, just a promoter. That's his job. He's just a promoter. The thing is, people need to address, why did UCAD let the fight go ahead? And why did the British Board of Boxing Control... they let the fight go ahead. Why did UCAD clear him? Because
But I think we've accepted that though, Hamid. Like, we know that they let the fight go and that the fight happened, but the point is, like,
No, but
why did they not inform Rivas?
But they haven't explained why they did it. I know they've cleared it. All they dropped was a statement, and which was kind of a lame statement. They haven't addressed it. Why? Like what?
But the
why?
point, but the point is that we know the fight went ahead and we know he was cleared. But why not tell Rivas's camp?
The other thing as well, Hamid.
Dave Allen left on a stretcher that night.
The other thing as well is, guys, the other thing as well is, remember, it took us over a year to find out about Tyson Fury's field testing, by which point he'd actually won the world title. You know, if it wasn't for Hauser, we might still not known about this.
That's true. That's true. Look at it. But objectively speaking, the UCAD made the decision. Is a loophole that Hearn and Matchroom and White got away with. Because look,
it's the laws.
This is a statement by VADA. Under VADA protocols, a positive result would have been reported to the WBC. So if he had failed a VADA test on the 17th of July, that would have been immediately reported to the WBC. And the Rivas camp would have known. But it was a UCAD test.
But dude, just say that everybody's blaming Eddie Hearn.
No,
you just said that they exposed the loophole and then chose not to fucking tell Rivas.
That's what I'm trying. Is more a UCAD should be more questioned, because the UCAD testing is very suspect. Also, the way UCAD test, the protocols are not the same, because they were saying that Billy Saunders should have been allowed to fight Andrade, but VADA said he shouldn't have been. So what I'm trying to say is this is still an ongoing case. I don't know. I want to hear what Dillian White and his team got to say, because at the moment they're not denied it. I'm not defending him. I'm just trying to figure out the full picture, because this is a serious ongoing investigation, and I think too many people, I'm not like naming names, I've just seen on Twitter, too many people think the case is actually done, but it's still an ongoing investigation. The thing I want to know is, how did that drug end up in his system? Because White hasn't denied how it ended up, or it did, and he was also tested by VADA but passed those tests. So this is a grey area that I think that he could have taken a drug a couple of months back that could have ended up in his system.
Ahmed, did you listen to Hauser interview with, was it Rob Tibbett?
I've only listened to 2 minutes. I've never listened.
I was just wondering, because I'm sure he said that VADA testing in this circumstance was pretty minimal.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, he said that there's a 30-1 chance. So because I was quite pleased about this VADA thing, but apparently it's only effective if it's random.
Yeah, this
random year round. It's more of a deterrent. So they only come one day out of 30. So you use some things that can disappear the next day out of your system, but you can be very unlucky and they can catch you on the day. But it's there as more of a deterrent than an
This is another thing. VADA is the most stringent drug testing in boxing. It's not even an opinion; it's a fact. The thing with Hearn is he threw USADA under the bus. I think someone tweeted it out. He was saying you could pay him off. So there's a question: did he pay off UCAD and the British Boxing Board of Control? That's a possibility. I do understand the criticism he's getting, and he deserves it, because he said a lot of things I think have been controversial in the past. But just looking at this case on his own, I think UCAD deserved to take the blame, because even though they were testing him year-round, he still was caught with a banned substance and they let the fight go ahead. Now, I want to know, why was he cleared? That's the question. But
this is the thing, mate. We need to know what type of finding that they've brought up here. I mean, as I say, I don't know if it's an atypical finding that if they get their party of experts to look at it.
According to Hauser, there was 2 drugs. Hearn is saying is 1. So that's another thing as well. Like, this whole thing, this is a very unique. Like, I've never heard of a case like this in the UK before. Like, this is very controversial, and I think some people are trying to throw VADA under the bus. But if he was being tested by VADA 365 throughout the year, he would have been caught much earlier. I could guarantee that. VADA with the WBC is very minimal. I'm sure I heard the testing is not stringent, because the clean boxing program, even though they say they're testing throughout the year, I think Vanez Martirosyan said before his fight with Golovkin, he was tested once in about 8 to 9 months, and that's not good enough. If you're part of a program that's testing you throughout the year, you should be getting tested regularly. So UCAD has his flaws as well. They did catch him, but that just shows that whatever he was doing, he was either cycling on and off before the Rivas fight was official, or he might have been juicing for a long time.
Can we also mention as well, Steve, the wee impromptu conversation that Eddie and Dillian had before the press conference, post-fight presser?
With the hair sample, yeah.
Yeah, just before you do so, Andy, I was going to say I'm more stringent than VADA, Hamid. So obviously, with some of these things that are being put across, we can't endorse like whether paying offs or whether so and so is juicing. We have to wait and see, legally for all that type of stuff. So
VADA is the most stringent because they follow the protocols of the World Anti-Doping Agency. UCAD has its own, I think, protocol, same as USADA, but USADA is shown to be flawed. This is from Thomas Hauser and Gabriel Montoya, and those were the two guys I was saying. Floyd Mayweather, I think one of them said was for IVs, and I think Montoya was the one who allegedly made I think it was an article that he popped dirty before the Cotto fight, but I think there was an allegation that Mayweather or his team either paid off for that story to not break out. But USADA has its flaws. I don't think USADA is as credible as VADA. They all drug testing agencies, but I think VADA, if you're getting tested 360 through the year, is very, very rarely you'll get through. And if you do it,
nobody, according to Gabe Montoya, there's no fighter getting tested 365. It's like whenever you get a fight arranged, maybe a 12-week period, and that's when you're getting tested. So if you're only fighting twice a year, you're only getting tested 24 weeks a year.
Andy, tell us about this point before we bring Hamid in for his final comments.
What was that, mate?
You're going to tell us about the little meeting, the breakfast meeting.
No, I don't know if I should mention that, but
I thought that's what you wanted to come in on. Sorry.
No. But I was just going to say, well, if you want, you can maybe just lay reference to Bob Arum's comments and stuff. That apparently that Rivas' team had been told that White had an injury, and they were getting tested out. So apparently on the morning of the fight, when he was told that they were getting checked out, and that he was actually at a hearing with the authorities.
Yeah, perfect. There you go. Right, Hamid, we've got another guy coming on. So if you want to make any final comments, and thanks for coming on.
All right, I just want to say, with the White situation, White and his team need to explain how that drug ended up. If it's 2 drugs and whatever, they need to explain how that ended up in their system. And UCAD need to explain themselves as well, because they've been in another doping scandal with, I think it's Tyson Fury and Yuri Fury. So there's a lot of, I think, grey area with this with this scandal, but I do think that some people should wait before they make an actual conclusion. But he did test dirty, according to Thomas Hauser, and I don't think anyone has denied it. And Thomas Hauser, I think, I do trust his sources. I don't think he's someone who'd put his reputation on the line for this case. And I think his ongoing investigation, I'm not too sure how it'll end, but it's quite bad though. But there has been instances where Lamont Peterson, I think, had I can't remember what drug it was, and that fight didn't get turned into a no contest, and he got stripped by I think it's the WBA, but the IBF didn't strip him. So I think some people saying this fight could end up as a no contest. I don't know about that. That'll be up to, I think, the commission, which I think is the UCAD and maybe the WBC, but we'll see how it ends up.
No problem. Cheers, Hamid. Catch you again.
All right, thanks very much.
Bye. Right, so Maximilian is looking to get on. You've given me a Gmail, and I have invited you a couple of times, but you haven't joined the call yet for whatever reason. I'm wondering if you've given me the correct address. You might not have done, you see. Whenever he comes on, he can talk about what he wants. I'm assuming he's coming on to talk about the Dillian White fight. In the meantime, we're going to hurtle on towards the Bellew of the Weeks by very briefly going over a few cards next week. Let's go to you, first of all, Ozzy, over in the Falls Park. I shall be present on this one. Paddy Gallagher, Luke Keeler, Sean McComb, Alfredo Melli. It's a good card. There's a lot of good evenly matched fights on. Michael Conlon, we wanted to see him fight Nikitin, didn't we, in the main event? He's ended up with this Diego Alberto Ruiz Aussie, which isn't ideal. But what can you do? The Russian pulled out at the end of the day. It's going to be quite the spectacular event, you would think.
Yes, it's a decent card. Like you say, Conlon Nikitin would have been the ideal fight, but they've pulled this guy in. I don't think he'll be any sort of slouch. You see these Argentinian lads brought over, so they're going to be tough. But I suspect Conlon will have far too much class and skills to come under any real problems against Ruiz. It's the undercard I'm quite keen on, actually. I think Paddy Gallagher, Chris Jenkins. I like Jenkins, and it's a good opportunity for him just to get a bit of publicity, and then from that, he'll be going straight into another fight against his mandatory against Liam Taylor, should he win, of course. I think Jenkins should have too much nous about him to beat Paddy Gallagher, to be honest. But this is a live fight. It's certainly a close one as well. It's not an absolute foregone. Luke Keeler, Luis Arias is another good one. I'm not massively sold on Keeler, to be honest. He's got two main wins, realistically, hasn't he? I think over Conrad Cummins, and we know what Cummins is like, and he's no mean feat. He's not great either. He got battered off Tom Doran, and then that's about it. So, to be honest, I think it's going to be a step too far, and Arias should win. He's had a decent amount of notice, so he's not coming in, on not 2 weeks' notice or anything like that. Good step up for Sean McComb. I think all the listeners have seen Renaud Garrido before, and he's probably it's probably harsh to call him a journeyman, really. He's one of the best out there. He always comes to win, and if you're not on your A game, you'll get beat because he comes to win and he throws plenty of shots and bulldozes forward. One for you, Steve, about Alfredo Milli. He's a bit of an odd fighter. Apparently, he's quite skillful, just can never stay active. He's against an 8-0 guy who I've not heard of before.
Do you know what it is, Ozzy? He works full time as a mechanic, and he's always in interviews saying that it's a full time, it's a steady full time job. It feeds his family, and unless someone comes out with a deal, where they're going to replace that income, he ain't going to go full time. So this is a guy who could probably get down to light middleweight. He's got a lot of talent, but he works. Yeah.
Yeah, and ultimately that pays the bills, and boxing is just a sport that is too inconsistent, and unless you're up there earning the big bucks or you've got lucrative sponsors that can give you essentially a monthly salary, it's a difficult thing to do. Another one as well, Padre McCrory, Steve Collins Jr. for the BUI Celtic super middleweight title. Suspect McCrory should beat Collins. I'm not massively sold on him, to be honest. But again, it's a solid card, one that I'm looking forward to, and there's lots to like about it.
Right, moving on. Rob, let's get your opinion on this one, shall we? Max Stokes said Conlon's a KO loss waiting to happen, so he's not too fussed about it. Where's the value on this card as far as you're concerned, Rob?
Probably with the ring walk. Mick should handle this guy pretty easily. I think that he's a late replacement opponent. I didn't like that fight with the Russian at the time, but I suppose they're trying to sell Mick now. They've had him on the road for a couple of years, developing, and they want to see some results on it from him now, like I'm pushing on towards world title status. I don't know about all that. I don't know if he's a KO loss waiting to happen. That remains to be seen. I'd expect him to probably stop this guy midway point.
Midway point, just inviting our guest there, Max, who's looking to come on. Andy, I'm not going to burden you with this card, but tell me about this. This is right up your street. This is over in Liverpool. Anthony Fowler against Brian Rose. A few people talking this up as a decent fight. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh here. I thought Brian Rose was done years ago. What am I missing, Andy?
I've not seen Brian. When did he last fight? Brian Rose.
That's a good question. Let's have a look then, shall we? This is making for great radio. He fought against a guy in April.
Wait, am I on? Do you hear me? Test 1.
Yes, we can hear you. One sec. We're just talking. I'll get you on in a minute. Right,
so
go ahead,
Brian Rose, last box, I think it was Alistair Warren on like a little small hole card, and that was a close fight. That a lot of people thought Rose got beat. So just to jump in on that, I don't see this as a competitive fight whatsoever. I think Rose has been shot to bits. I mean, fucking hell, Matthew Macklin beat him back in 2016, and we know how shot Matthew Macklin was at the time. So
yeah,
I think this is a good fight for Fowler. Relatively decent name to get on there, when your 11th fight, coming off a loss against Scott Fitzgerald. I think it'll be a brutal, brutal victory for Fowler. I think he'll make a mess of Rose, who
he cuts badly.
I was going to say a gust of wind in his nose.
The nose, yeah.
So,
what about Joe Hughes, mate, off the card?
Yeah, so I just confirmed it before. I was told about it earlier in the week, and then spoke to Joe Hughes. So yeah, when the bad news just keeps on coming in for Matchroom, it's a key fight lost off the card. And
Even Eddie.
Yeah, Joe's got a bad back injury. Pulled out a couple of weeks ago now, and just it's one of them, isn't it? It's a pivotal fight in his career, and you can't go into any sort of fight not fit. Understand you get little niggles and things like that, but when it's your back as well, it's just not worth the risk. So, yeah, Ritz and Hughes off. I assume they'll just draft in some. No mark for Ritson, who's had a bit of bad luck recently. I think he's had a couple of opponents pull out on him. But this isn't a bad card, for I know it's not what we want to be seeing, but this is one of these next gen cards. But going down the card, it's pretty decent. That Cullen Harding Jr. is a good one for the English title. McGoldrick's in a big step up against Thomas Asomba. He's as tough as old boots. McGoldrick will win, but Asomba will make him work for it. Big Martin Bacoli's back. He's got a deal with Matchroom now. He's is it Yatalo Pereira or something like that? He's
caused some problems by with that guy.
Hey guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. My headset fucked up. Fucked up. My bad.
Oh, no problem at all, Max. Welcome. Come on in.
Wait, hold on, wait. Mom. Please Mom! Shut the fuck up!
Okay, we'll see you later then. Carry on, Ozzy.
Don't let that wanker come back on again.
Well, I won't be. I mean, I wasn't expecting that, but there was always a chance.
I knew as soon as I fucking knew it. I knew it. Oh.
There's always a chance.
What a
we give everybody a chance.
Yeah.
I was going to tell him to shut the fuck up. He interrupted us like that,
Actually, about to go like, shut the fuck up, you moron. I've just had a little.
I don't care about your mom, dude. Get out of here.
Yeah, you know what though? Yeah, he'll go away now, back to his room where he's playing Fortnite or something like that. Be absolutely buzzing with himself about what he's just done, and he's a little maggot. Not even funny at all.
I know, like what's that? What's funny about that, Mom? Hey, Mom. Real fucking card, you.
Fucking raging man, isn't he?
What? Honestly. What?
Mom.
Anyway, back to Big Bacoli. It could be difficult, this for him. It's only over 8 rounds as well, which, you see like these, like close, well-matched fights over 8. Anything can happen. You've not got the extra, like 10 or 12 or something.
Yeah, I was going to say this guy might cause some problems.
Yeah, he's. I'd certainly say he's been in with better quality than what Bacoli has been, which is quite interesting. And then another one down the line as well for Kai's Ashfaq against Sean Davis. Now, Davis has contested for English titles. I think he's won them as well. Even contested for a British title as well. So again, that's a good fight. So the card's quite good. Real shame that Ritson Hughes has had to drop off it, but all in all, you can't ask anything more of a next gen card. I mean, they're not all prospects, and like your 22-year-olds coming through with Brian Rose being your headline opponent. But all in all, pretty decent night's boxing for a Friday night as well. So fair play.
Fair play, Gabe. Fair play
Shut
to
up,
you.
Mom.
My son is making gestures as if I got roasted. So this must be a thing, Rob. Apparently, I've been lured in here.
Oh, he's giggling away with his hand over his mouth. Like, I said, "Shut the fuck up, Mom." Dickhead.
There you go. I'm used to taking L's. Gabe, let's take another L this weekend, shall we? Jean Pascal is still fighting, going in against 23-0 Marcus Brown over on the PBC show. Adam Kovnacki is in against Chris Ariola as well. Another chance for Chris Ariola. Andre Berto still buzzing around, naturally. Heather Hardy, and also Curtis Stevens against Wally Omatoso, which might be interesting, Gabe, in a sort of perverse way. But tell me about Marcus Brown, who I actually rate, against Jean Pascal.
Man, it's awful. I gotta say that being a big fan of both guys, really, but I really have always kind of watched Jean Pascal with quite a bit of interest. He just he's one of those fighters that has vulnerabilities, but also can do the work if he's right. I just don't want to see it at all, though. I feel like Jean Pascal is what is he? He's 1-4, 1-5 in his last 4 or 5 fights.
It's a bit sad, isn't it, Gabe, really, the way it's turning
not
out?
good.
Do you know what it was, Gabe? Do you know what happened? I mentioned this a while ago. He was going on a losing streak, and then he scored a knockout win over some undefeated prospect. He was maybe an Egyptian or something. And that was the worst thing that could have happened for Jean Pascal's career, because it gave him a bit of false hope.
It was a fight that was I think it was in Florida. And it was what he said was going to be his farewell fight, his last fight ever. Yeah. And it was some kid that I think they had thought could be competitive, and he blew him out. And then, you know, you've seen it keep on going. And he's done. He doesn't have anything left to offer in terms of great value. He's at the stage now where he's being a gatekeeper. He's getting pounded. He's going to be damaged if he doesn't stop soon. And I hope to God someone in his camp or in his family or somewhere will get the guy to shut it down. There's just nothing left for this guy, and there's no point for him to continue on fighting. Marcus Brown is a legitimate fighter. He has power. He has speed. He has skills. And I don't want to see him damage Jean Pascal. Pascal has come off as a dickhead before in interviews and so on and so forth. And he's always confident. And I think that this can be a bad fight for him, because he's going against a live dog, a young man in his prime. And I don't think anything good can come out of it. I mean, you know, and that's from me. I've been a Jean Pascal fan for some time. I actually thought that he could, you know, whenever he was fighting Kovalev, I thought that he would put up a decent fight. And I thought that he had a few moments where he, you know, showed some flashes of what he's capable of. Overall, you know, he ended up taking some beatings in both of those fights. But I think there were moments where he showed what he could do if he lands a big punch. But that's the problem. He's going to go in there looking to land a big punch against a guy like Marcus Brown, and it's not going to end well. It's just a horrible fight. I don't want to see it. I don't want any part of it. But you know, the honest truth is, it'll be tuned in on my TV because I want to watch the rest of the card and see what happens. This Stevens versus Omatoso fight. What wasn't Omatoso fighting at welterweight or light welterweight?
Who did he fight recently? He went in against somebody. No, it might not have been him. Might have been. Oh, I can't remember, Gabe. You know, I haven't got the box up in front of me anymore.
I might be thinking of a different fighter, but I could have sworn that he was fighting, you know, smaller guys a while back. Again, that may not be correct, but you know, in that one, I don't really have a whole lot of excitement to see that one. Really, the rest of the card I don't care much about. To me, the Marcus Brown fight is the one I'll be watching with the most interest, but the least amount of desire to see, if that makes any sense at all. I mean, it's completely ass backwards, but I like Marcus Brown as well. So with that one, you know, that card, I think the Areola fight will be entertaining, if nothing else, because of Areola's ability to possibly put his guy away, but to also be put away. And so, I mean, the whole card is just what it feels like, a fucking retirement home card. Jesus Christ. Andre Berto, when was the last time that motherfucker was relevant? You know, about the 2000s, whenever he was relevant and people were looking at him as a next great hope for boxing supremacy. I mean, Jesus fuck, this card it's just wretched. But goes sadly to say that I'll be tuning into it. So whatever.
I've got to say, we'll have you on next week to review it, Gabe. So you better get ready.
And I'll be here.
He'll be here. Good old Gabe, without fail. Right, Rob's still with us as well. So is Ozzy. So is Andy. That's all I've got for next week. Looks like a pretty lean week. Is there anything I'm missing, gentlemen, before we go on to the belly of the week? Do let me know now, please. No. There we go. Let us move on to the belly of the weeks then, shall we? An absolute shitstorm of them, as you would expect on a week like this. Starting off with Taylor Clayton. It's that weirdo who has his photo taken with the stars, has a strange infatuation with Priscilla Presley. Who doesn't, I suppose? She's looking well.
Fucking plastic face.
Yeah.
Imagine shagging her, man. Like polythene Pam.
In front of a radiator.
Allegedly, will be allegedly like that. That's listening tonight.
Rob, I imagine you're a big fan of Priscilla even to this day, aren't you?
Priscilla Presley, wasn't she like 13 or something when he married her? I don't know, man. That's a bit sketchy. Like,
No, I'm talking about her now, but she was good in Naked Gun anyway.
she was good at Naked Gun. She was better than Anna Nicole Smith.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Anyway,
ask that old oil tycoon what he thought about Anna Nicole Smith.
O.J. Simpson, he was having the time of his life, man. Until 93 billion, he was like, "Fuck it, I don't care about these kids. They're rich anyway." Get some of that Anna Nicole Smith. That's what he wanted.
He dropped that.
He went out happy as Larry, man. He went out the fucking way he was supposed to when he had 93 billion. Get out the fucking door.
Steve, it's quite fitting that Rob brings up O.J. Simpson in the night when we're talking about drug tests and stuff like that. What was his nickname? Juice.
Juice.
What happened? What happened when he was coming up? He was getting loads of black pussy. What happened when they hit mainstream fucking Hollywood? He got tons of white pussy.
Pussy for everyone. Anyway, back to
good driver as well.
Yeah. Back to Taylor Clayton. He's probably not getting much pussy, to be fair. Has been nominated from Graham Taylor 5. Officially the best boxing punditry team, undisputed, says Taylor. He then tagged in Tony Bellew, Johnny Nelson, Carl Froch and Wooly Anna. Boxing on a Saturday night would not be the same without this team presenting the big fights. Keep up the good work, guys, he said, and a little photo of them. Ricky Gravel has nominated Lukey Boxing, who we mentioned earlier, and will be a prominent feature of this Bellew of the Week segment. Lukey was talking about Manny Pacquiao's win over Keith Thurman. The cold part is, says Lukey, Thurman is a Hall of Famer. All right then, Lukey. We'll take your word on that one. Iron Fisted and Andy, this might annoy you actually. Iron Fisted Champion has nominated _Shua SHX, who said, Roberto Duran on your list? He's like the Brandon Rios of the 80s. Roberto Duran, Andy, is the Brandon Rios of the 80s, according to Shua SH.
Fuck me.
Oh.
There he is.
He woke up.
Brandon Rios, man.
Greatest lightweight ever, Roberto Duran.
Jesus Christ, man. Even Brandon Rios would be ashamed to be named in the same sentence as Roberto Duran, man. That cunt's talking to walls. Roberto Duran's fucking got a whole country fucking living off his hands, man. Jesus Christ.
Solid nomination.
Brandon Rios.
Ted Barrett has thrown this one into me on WhatsApp. Ted is a member over at patreon.com/boxing asylum. He said, Bellew of the Week nomination, Aussie will like this one. And it was for Thomas Taylor. Thomas Taylor, number 4. You'll always be my favourite boxer, Dave Allen. The Brown win is up there with my favourite results of all time. People's champ. Oh dear. People's champ. There you go. Kevin Watson. Talking to Brown. Talking to Brown, he was supposed to fight Tom Little, wasn't he? And there was some problem. The card got pulled.
Yeah, absolutely disastrous. And again, these bogus promoters need to be strung up as well. So they binned off the show on Wednesday or Thursday, citing financial issues. Bear in mind, Lucas Brown and another Australian kid were over here ready. All the fighters were ready. Tickets had been sold. And then it transpires that apparently a York call wasn't even booked before. So
really,
yeah, that's what I saw.
Fucking hell, on the Thursday.
Yeah.
What a fucking twat, man.
Who booked that show? Maxo?
Did it get already started, man?
Ozzy, that's like those mad stories when you hear of someone who forgets to... Do you remember that guy who forgot to book the wedding reception or the wedding venue? And he went to the elaborate hoax of like ringing up saying there was a bomb alert and everything on the day.
It was Kinnock Boxing who were co-promoting it with somebody else. I'm not sure why. Well, like I said, God knows what.
Was it Neil Kinnock?
To be fair, though, Kinnock has form, doesn't he, Ozzy? He's a decent promoter. He puts on shows in Scotland, so it might not have been his problem.
Yeah, it was. I don't know who. It was the other side of the promotion.
Yeah.
Binned it off.
Just cyclade, was it?
Rich Energy, they're called. Rich Energy. The
Rich Energy. Sounds legit like.
So yeah, but anyway, no. But regardless of that, obviously, it's quite amusing that a venue wasn't even. But the thing is that it's not as if Lucas Browns drove down the M6 to get there or anything like that. He's flown over from fucking Australia along with this other guy and brought his team over, and we'll be going back with absolutely nothing.
Closer each day, home and away.
It's a bizarre one, that, again, the sport that keeps on giving, basically.
It reminds me, Rob, of a promoter, Maria O'Sullivan. If you remember her, she was supposed to put on shows back about 6 or 7 years ago, and she was supposed to put on 3 shows, but they kept on falling through. And she had these grandiose ideas. She was going to have stilt walkers and fire jugglers and Irish speaking MC, and none of it ever came to pass.
Well, I know, like, from years in the music business, when someone calls you to a meeting and they want to put on a show, they start talking about fire jugglers and stilts. That shit is not happening.
In an outdoor tent and everything.
Yeah. They're going to bring in this person or that person. Sure, yeah.
But Kevin Watson nominated the whole show for Belly of the Week. That's why we're talking about it right now. Another one here. Anna's a vile human being, said somebody on Twitter. Always the victim, regardless of any situation. # Love Island. Ozzy, you might remember those words. It was you tweeting during the week, nominated by Barry White for Belly of the Week.
I'll be watching it as soon as I come off this pod now.
Come on, Oz.
Barry White getting in there.
It is what it is, Oz. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. I'm watching from a boxing perspective. We've got young prospect Tommy Fury in there.
And if he plays his cards right, he'll never have to fight again.
Exactly, mate. He already doesn't. They're already saying he's got like 300 grams worth of stuff sewn up already as soon as he steps out. So
yeah, the spin-off reality show. They go off in the caravan together.
More money from that than he will in any fight whatsoever.
Big time.
Good luck to him. Good luck to Amir Khan as well, who's on the list a couple of times. First of all, he made a video, Sky Sports. Amir Khan was misinformed regarding the Pacquiao fight. I was told the contracts between myself and Manny Pacquiao had been signed, said Amir.
Shock horror.
Box royalty.
Fucking Amir Khan, man. All the fucking people say that it's going to happen. You just know it's not going to happen. Fucking Amir Khan, man. Hey, talked himself out of Floyd fight. Talked him out of Manny Pacquiao fight. Probably talked himself out of fucking everything just about it. But fuck me, man. Holy fuck.
What do you reckon, Gabe? Front runner for Amir?
It's gotta be. I called it. I mean, I don't get any fucking fight predictions right anymore. And I call this. Surely you all had to have known it was coming. I mean, Jesus. No, there's no way Manny was going to ever fight Amir Khan.
Hi, death and taxis, and Amir can be misinformed.
Yes, right?
Good old Amir. Coming up later on as well.
Steve, why we're at it, I was looking at James Tony's Instagram, and in the States they have a show, Family Feud, which is the same as Family Fortunes in the UK, right?
Oh yeah.
And this week, it's the Brawlers versus the Maulers. So on the Brawlers team, there's Antonio Tarver, Andre Berto, Danny Swift Garcia, and Josecito Lopez. And on the Maulers, it's got Clarissa Shields, Andre Ward, James Toney, and Amir Khan. Right? I just imagine how that clip is going to go. They're going to go, yeah, Clarissa Shields has said she can beat Triple G in a fight. Let's go to our survey says.
Is Les Dennis doing the presenting?
I don't really know, Steve.
Oh dear. good old Amir. Right. Okay. So Sam Dorset has nominated Skip Bayless for talking about Floyd Mayweather. Jamie at Nutsack 007, Donny's favourite, has nominated Tom Gray for saying he wouldn't watch the Floyd versus Pacquiao fight. Here's one for Gabe. Mohamed Mia has nominated Chris Arreola. If I'm not world champion, I did nothing in my career, says Arreola. Before these two heavyweights meet in the ring, Adam Kovnacki and Chris Arreola go face to face. Definitely deserving of a face-to-face, that one. Let's get the boys sitting down, shall we? Kovnacki and Chris Ariola. It's what everybody wants to see. Sai has nominated Dillian White for Bellew of the Week. Self-explanatory nomination there. Richard Gallagher has been nominated by Big Bert. They set White up more like, says Richard. This is BS proper, 500 days overdue. They tried to chuck him under the bus again with Rivas and it failed. Now they're running out of ideas. They try this. Wilder is more protected by the money men behind the scenes. See you in Cardiff. Do as you're told. Richard Gallagher suspects a bit of fair play there. You never know. Illuminati confirmed. This is episode 333 of the Boxing Asylum podcast. That's half of 666, Rob. Just saying. Maybe a bit of a conspiracy going on here. Who knows? Let's bring up the next one. I'm talking bullshit as usual. Where are we? Oh, yes, Big Bert is nominated. Eddie Hearn saying Errol Spence was arguably pound for pound number one when he brought him over to fight Kell Brook on the Toe-to-Toe podcast. So Errol Spence was arguably pound for pound number one, says Eddie. Nomination for him. Ben has nominated Richard Gallagher as well. Hamed has nominated Ty E. Falls. Lomachenko's not off the hook. He ducked Manny, according to Mr. Falls. Just moving on through them now. Simon Kirk has been nominated by Not Available. Dillian White, don't for a second believe White knew anything about these so-called PEDs. Boxing at this class requires a lot of hard work, and no one can Denise this man, puts in 100% every time. So Simon bringing up Denise there. Chad King has nominated Lucas Brown for bringing out his own Big Daddy clothing and offering 50% off. Chad has also nominated Yordenis Ugas for going into Keith Thurman's changing rooms. David Almond nominated Dillian White for testing positive for banned substance. What else have we got here? Matt Skelton, amongst many other people. I don't know if anybody saw this. DAZN hyping up the Maurice Hooker against Ramirez fight. At the end of the press conference, they had this bizarre light show. Did anybody see it? And like these women appeared on strings. You have to go and see it on Twitter. DAZN USA tweeted it out anyway. Not your typical ending to a press conference, they said. Right about that. Matt Skelton's nominated it. Declan Graffin, nomination for Spencer X for claiming White's failed test might be contaminated. Something like the mad cow disease. Yeah, mad cow disease sounds about right, Spencer. Ian has nominated Eddie and Dillian, calling it a stitch-up, saying they hadn't slept, trying to talk quietly when people are walking past, the dodgy bastards. Donnell has been nominated by Gavin Stevens. Crazy to see so many UK fans rooting for a UK fighter and a promoter to fail, says Donald Smith. I wonder if Dillian White was to fight Bronze Bomber, who they would be rooting for. It's so important we get behind and support British boxing. This is Britain, and we should always back our own, says Donald Smith. Matt Yu has been nominated by Chad King as well. Michael Hunter had to delete a tweet. The boss told him to delete it, said Derek, after he was commenting about Dillian White testing positive. JWA has been nominated by Brian King as well for juicing comments. Just moving on. Oh, here we are. Here's Amir Khan again. He sent out a big, nice message to his beautiful wife, Miss Farial. He said, happy birthday. She's my soulmate, blah, blah, blah. My babe, my queen, my wife. 27 today. And then he changed it. She's actually 28, I meant. So Amir, on top of things as usual when it comes to the... You almost wonder how he got caught out, don't you? By the big lad coming round.
Oh my God! Well, he wasn't going to find out by the expressions on her face anyway. I'll tell you that much.
She's got the Priscilla presidency.
Allegedly.
Connor Hinchcliffe has nominated Vincent Peer. Vincent was responding to a thread. We're not going to go into this black hole. Sharon Davis, the swimmer, was talking about transgender and all that. They're arguing about transgender boxers. And Vincent Peer said, I absolutely don't care at all who runs against who. And as for boxers, there's weight classes. So if anyone makes weight, I also don't care about their genitalia or chromosomes, said Vincent. Chuck them in. Why don't you? Connor Hinchcliffe has nominated him. Lukey Boxing has been nominated by Brian King. This will get people mad, but Tevin Farmer is the closest I have seen to Pernell Whitaker since Sweet Pea left the ring, says Lukey Boxing. So Luke,
that's a fucking stinker. That is like I don't think anyone's going to top that. That is outrageous. Tevin Farmer. Oh man, come on.
Rob's not happy about that one, and so he shouldn't be. James Oliver has nominated Callum at AIDSDEM. About the only boxing journalist with any integrity. Fair play to Michael Benson. He's getting on the Benson train. He's lost his edge, but he's still going. Good luck to him. Pat on the head. Chad King has nominated Matchroom Boxing and Mighty Mo Hooker. I plan to make him look dumb, says Mo, ahead of his fight with Ramirez. # all or nothing. Yep, that worked out well for you. Chad Hogan, we're getting to the end here, guys, is nominated G-Force 1987. Spencer Fearon is one of the realest and knowledgeable guys in boxing. Put a sock in it. Stop seeking attention through being bitter. He was backed up by Asgi as well, who said, people feel uncomfortable to debate with him simply because of his intelligence and being his own man and not a puppet. We need more to stand up and be heard. Who's he speaking up for, Rob? The future? Our kids? Why? Because he cares. Never change, brother.
Well, I tell you, if people are scared to debate him, it's not because of his intelligence anyway. I'll give you that one. I'll tell you that for nothing. Fucking hell. Mad cow disease.
Foot in mouth disease, more like. Richard Lodder at SuperDicky193 has nominated the doctor, Joseph Ajayo, THD, PhD. Joseph was going in on Twitter today, having a go at Richard Lodder. You're an uneducated, illiterate, a white moron who does not even grasp and grab his lingua franca. Psychologically, you are cantankerous and your words are cumbersome, silly pig and ass. No messing about. White moron.
You got off a fence, eh? Fucking man.
Yeah, white moron, yeah.
White moron. Oh, man. The doctor going in. Chad Hogan has nominated Andy. People need, not you, Andy, Hendo Racing. People need to remember sometimes about Eddie Hearn. There'd be hardly any boxing on TV or events to go to. Fans, you need to remember that. Eddie is a boxing god. Jake Wood has been nominated as well by Chad Hogan for going on about redheads. That's all the ones I've got. No more Bellew of the Weeks if anybody has them. Smido, anything from you?
No, I just have come back on to vote for Spencer Fearon. Definitely, 100%.
Thank you, Smido. Always good to hear from you. Andy, anything from you, sir?
Did you get one about TalkSport when they were talking about the Dillian White situation?
Oh, no, go ahead, Andy. Yeah, that was bad.
I can't mind the full details again, but it just basically says, that they don't believe he's cheated or something like that, or anybody else will be able to kind of follow that one in?
I think it was John Rawling. I haven't listened to it, but it was John Rawling, Gareth A. Davis, and Johnny Nelson. Ozzy, you might have heard it. They were making out to be the victim, complete whitewash, was it?
Some unbiased guys there.
Yeah, in a nutshell, yeah. White has been, I think Nelson said White has been very unlucky. Gareth A. Davis again defending him. It was, I didn't hear the full thing, but it was laughable, really. I mean, the fact is you got Nelson coming out saying he was unlucky. How can you be unlucky? What is unlucky about it? It's it's comments like that do more harm than good. Yeah, you can.
Unlucky he got caught. Unlucky it got out.
Yeah, I mean the fact is though is that, like I said, they're saying it's unlucky. These people get paid to to give basically insights because they're ex-pros and stuff like that, and they come out with bullshit like that. If that was Rivas who'd been busted, they'd be going absolutely booloo. They wouldn't be saying, "Oh, Oscar Rivas has been unlucky" or something like that. But the fact is, Dillian White, and he's one of the big fish at Sky's for Matchroom, and we're getting told he's unlucky. Unlucky for what? He's been caught. He's been caught for a reason, and he's certainly not unlucky.
But Ozzy, you do make a good point, because as much as we say, we know what they're like, but I mean, people like, say, my old man, for example, who's like, he doesn't even watch boxing. I wouldn't even call him a casual. He would say things to me the odd time. Oh, I saw on Sky Sports that this is happening, but and I'm thinking, yeah, exactly. I think Eddie's probably come up with that. Yeah. Oh, they were saying on TalkSport about this and that. That is the narrative. That's the opinion. That is what the boxing world is saying to them.
Yeah, and they're in a privileged position with a listenership of millions of people. And essentially, if you hear something like that and you're not massively clued up on the situation or the sport, you will usually take what they say as, like a fair opinion. And we've got, like I said, Gareth A. Davis, Johnny Nelson, I forget who the other person was on the show, all defending a drugs cheat, who, let's not forget, who has been done before and has been caught again. Yet they're telling a lot of listeners, that a lot who probably are more casual fans as well, that this guy has been unlucky.
Gabe, do you have any nominations you want to throw into the mix?
Nope.
What about you, Rob? And I pretty much know where, where you're going. It looks like it's going to be Lukey this week.
Yeah, it has to be for that. That's outrageous. Like, Pernell Whitaker. Oh, Bellew of the Week for the fella that robbed Chavez. in Mexico City. Maybe that was kind of ironic in the week that Pernell Whitaker passed away, that Chavez got robbed himself. Someone robbed Julio Cesar Chavez Senior's wallet at gunpoint in Mexico City. So
well remembered.
Yeah.
Okay, so Rob's gone for Lukey
Sweet
boxing.
Pea. You think it was a Ghost of Sweet Pea coming back to fucking
Goes to
visit
Sweet
him
Pea,
now?
be like, give me that wallet, you fucker.
Rob's gone for Lukey boxing. Smido's gone for Spencer Fearon. Eddie's been thrown in as well. Dillian White's been thrown in. Dave Allen as well. Ozzy, it's a really strong week this week. Who are you going for?
What was Allen nominated for?
That was... Oh, no, it wasn't Alan. It was your man, Thomas Taylor 4. Sorry, he was saying Dave was the people's champion. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not interested in him. Fearon, I'm going to go for, actually. But it's torn between the Sweet Pea one and Fearon. I mean, yeah, I'm going to go with Fearon. I mean, his comments are disgraceful. I hope he gets sued for that because he's just throwing out basically unfounded accusations. There is nothing to suggest it. And he's not said it tongue-in-cheek. He was adamant that he has accused another fighter of juicing and failing tests. There's only been one report of that, and that's from him. So, yeah, he can have that nomination. I hope he gets, some severe repercussions from that, because you can't just be throwing out accusations like that to try and taint an argument or, deflect some of the news elsewhere.
I think, yeah, as well, right, that as well as Fearon, Eddie should get a special mention this week. As I know we've gone in on him, but he showed himself. There's a follow up to that other interview where the American guy put him under pressure, where they exchange again, and he gets so petty to the point where he's like, "I pull down this guy's trousers and I spank his bum. Do you like my bum? Do you want to see my bum?" And all this, trying to get the crowd on side with him in a really kind of petty, low way. And we also saw him have that conversation off camera, where, you know what I mean. It's audible. Parts of it are audible. You draw your own conclusions when you listen to that conversation about what's going down there. What is the miracle of all miracles? So, you know what I mean? It doesn't show... What it shows to me is that they had no intention of letting Rivas know in case that pay-per-view got scuppered, because they would have been within their rights to pull their fighter regardless of him being cleared. Regardless of him being cleared, because it's their decision to make. So I think we just want to kind of sum up that that's the feeling of it. But Eddie, this has been a nightmare week for him, man. Absolute nightmare.
And then Hooker lost as well.
Even Eddie.
Essa's thrown in Tony Bellew for doing a foreign accent, apparently. Also, Rebel Boxing, I got this one thrown in late. They were saying that Tony Bellew and Alexander Usyk were the two best cruiserweights since Evander Holyfield. And then they're obviously trolling and fishing. They said, David Hay fans don't at me. Well, I mean, sure, you've got David Hay, you've got Juan Carlos Gomez. Even though I'd argue Johan Pablo Hernandez all have better records than Bellew. So I think they're just fishing for responses there.
Well, props to the guy who put on Twitter, I don't know who it was, but Brian King retweeted it. It was like the one time we actually want to hear from Tony Bellew, he's disappeared.
Just leave him alone, Rob, will you?
Leave him alone.
He doesn't want to comment on this.
Tell you what, though,
it's not Tony, it's Anthony, by the way.
Anthony's not available for comment.
Go on,
it is interesting that he has not said a word on this at all. He's usually vocal, and it's a case of, stone him to death and get him in prison and chuck away the key and things like that.
They are praying. They are putting up prayer to Mullah, Allah, fucking Jesus, whoever God you want to pray to, by that B sample comes back negative, because they want to come back to Oyos and say, fuck you, we told you everything was fine. Right, let's get the lawsuit settled now. Oh, for fuck's sake. We were scurrying for cover, man.
Right, so who are you going for then, sorry?
Fearon
for you. That's 2 for Spence. Gabe, I'm torn between Fearon. Liked a bit of Amir Khan's work this week. And I also like Dr. Joseph coming in with a late one. Who you got for? Who you going for, Gabe?
Fearon.
Oh, Fearon. Looks like it could be on for him this week. Only one from Lukey Boxing, just thrown in there from Rob. Andy, the final say is yours.
It's just a strong competition this week, isn't it? But I want to go for Amir Khan, because that's just what Amir Khan does. That guy has spoke so much shit to the point where he's probably lost 2 big fucking fights. Right? And you're saying to yourself, why the fuck would a fight be announced between Pacquiao and Khan, regardless if Pacquiao beat Thurman or no. It made no sense business-wise. It made absolutely zero fucking sense. Why would Pacquiao stretch himself to fight twice this year as well? You know, it's just... I'm here, man. Does he not fucking think? Does he not engage his brain? Does he not got people telling him, you're getting taken for a ride here?
It's like the time where he said, you know, I'm learning with Virgil, I've been sparring Andre Ward. Andre Ward was like, I never sparred American. Like, obviously, I didn't mean I sparred him, you know, but he's in the gym.
He did like fucking. What a guy that is, man. I mean, seriously. I mean, can you imagine the fucking fantasies he's? I mean, think about it. The fantasies he must
give a shit, man. He doesn't give a shit. See if he said about his wife that she was into AJ and she was only a money grabber, and then he gets back with her, and he's like, "Oh, we worked it out." Like he fucking doesn't give a fuck.
He would tackle his granny, man, if he earned a fucking few quid. I'll tell you.
Editing King in the chat says a shout out to the Pillock who compared Brandon Rios to the great Roberto Duran as well. Forgot about him. Right at the top of the show. I think it's Spencer. Everybody, I'll give it to Spencer Fear on this week. Congratulations, Spence. You're winning awards. We'll play us out on our little montage again, shall we? Might as well get a little bit of value out of it for the final time this week. Thank you to everybody who's joined us. Feel free to jump off, lads, if you wish, or stay on. It's up to you. I'll play this one more time. Smido, good to hear from you. You're always welcome. Yep, no, good contribution. It's quality, not quantity from you these days, Smid. Also, Rob Kelly, more quantity from you, Rob. You're joking. Ozzy.
I was all fired up this week, wasn't I?
Ozzy as well. Great job for Gabe and Andy. Thank you to everybody who came on the call. Richie Garner, to Angelo, to Danny, all the other guys as well. Hamed, shout out to you. Great pod again, says take aims. Thank you, sir. I've been Steve Wellings. We'll catch you all again. Same time, same place next week. Bye.
You call yourself a man? You know you're a lying, low-life, motherfucking gambling degenerate prick. You know that's what you are?
Let's all be honest, man. You know, we want to be honest, yeah?
There are so many drug cheats in America. Like across all, I'm not saying about boxing, I'm saying across all sports. You need to have an independent commission for boxing.
Let's all be honest, man. You know, we want to be honest, yeah? You know what? Allegedly, I heard from a good source. But it's allegedly, so I don't want no one trying to sue me. But allegedly, Oscar Rivas has failed a test. This is the talk that I'm hearing. So if it has, and that comes out, then I'll say, right. I'm saying don't point the finger. Too many people point the finger at Dillian White. I'm saying, listen, you saw how elated I was. Dillian White come from the ends. Do you know what I mean? Even worse, he actually came from Jamaica where he can hold his hands up and said he had nothing and came here and made something of his life. Let's all be honest, man. You know, we want to be honest, yeah?
I'm glad that we found out because this is a fight game. And I don't want people going into the ring with an edge physically in such a damaging sport. So in that respect, I'm very glad that we found out that this was happening with this particular fighter. Well, and again, he's pleaded his innocence. He might have been unlucky. It might have been intentional. Might have been unintentional. Doesn't matter. He's failed a drugs test and everybody has to be dealt with in the same way.
Let's all be honest, man. You know, we want to be honest, yeah?
He could have said, oh yeah, I took this supplement and I didn't know. What he's done is downright cold-blooded cheating.
Let's all be honest, man. You know, we want to be honest, yeah?
This is a fight game. People have died in that ring. People get damaged for life in that ring. And to do what he has done is cowardly, in my opinion.
You're a fucking bum. You're a fucking asshole. I hope you fucking die for fucking around with the sport by taking drugs.